Ladies and gentlemen, huge geopolitical movements on this Tuesday, the 19th day of March 2013. The Syrian government is saying that chemical weapons have been launched by al-Qaeda forces against them. People are suffocating in the streets. The air smells strongly of chlorine. That shows some type of chemical gas. And, of course, the White House and Benjamin Netanyahu have said that that would be a red line if that happened. And the public, as I've been saying last year, we need to get Syrian Girl back on, as they hype the fact that Assad would use chemical weapons, they've segued into any use of chemical weapons as a reason to invade. And we just saw Israel and the United States in the press yesterday and the day before that, on Sunday, calling for strikes in Syria on al-Qaeda before they use chemical weapons against Assad, and then implying it's Assad's fault. Assad is the one being attacked. The Syrians are the ones being invaded out of Turkey, out of other NATO-backed areas like Jordan. And it's all on record, but they know the general public can't even find Syria on a map, much less even understand the different parties. And so the news this morning is calling for basically the bombardment or invasion of Syria because the West put al-Qaeda and other jihadis in there. They're now basically calling for some type of invasion to keep everyone safe from the chemical weapons that al-Qaeda has that clearly the West has given them. And, of course, there's Russians inside the country guarding the legally owned chemical weapons. Because a lot of people think if you have chemical weapons, that's a reason to be invaded. Well, then every Western country in the world would have to be invaded. Most nations have chemical and biological weapons. And my issue is Syria's never invaded anybody. Syria's not attacking anybody. I don't particularly want to live under a, Alawite minority rule. They claim they have a mid-level elections there, but it is a dictatorship for all intents and purposes. But they're not attacking anybody, and we don't have a right to go attack them, much less use al-Qaeda. Much less use al-Qaeda to overtake the country, to then put in something 10 times worse than Assad conservatively. So just unprecedented, bizarro, absurdist land now, where we've got a Peace Prize-winning president launching attacks in 10 different African countries, engaged in all sorts of mass murder, injecting jihadis in to engage in ethnic cleansing in Libya and other areas, while being praised as a wonderful peacenik. And now the London Telegraph, CBS News, they're all reporting it looks very credible that some type of chemical weapon has been used, and at least 25 people are dead right now. That number probably will, unfortunately, rise. Now, when our troops got hit by chemical weapons from Saddam's chemical bases being blown up, and thousands of chemical detectors went off, including chemical tape that just picks it up, you don't really get false positives with that. They told them, never mind, you didn't really get hit by nerve gas. And then, of course, hundreds of thousands had neurological disorders. Tens of thousands have died. And so you just pretend it isn't happening. And so you'll probably see that as well. Here's the article from yesterday. I actually had it here in my stack. Will you guys print me, just so I have it when we come back from break? Israel calls for strikes inside of Syria. And U.S. calls for strikes against al-Qaeda in Syria. So, I mean, everybody knows that was on the news the last 2 days, but I want to have that. Syrian rebels regime blame each other for first alleged chemical weapons attack. So now it's going to be, Assad probably did it. I mean, this is just too amazing. That is all coming up and a lot more. Stay with us. All right, it is Tuesday, the 19th day of March, 2013. I am your host, Alex Jones. Coming up, Congressman asked Big Sis to explain huge ammo purchases. This is on YouTube and C-SPAN, but has not been picked up anywhere by the press until now. By Paul Joseph Watson. It is up at Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. Continuing, We have a bunch of developments on the robbery going on where they've declared a bank holiday until at least Thursday, halted trading in the stock market in Cyprus as the Cyprian population panics. And we've got the former exchequer chancellor, the former finance minister, the former secretary of the Treasury, basically in England, warning of bank runs across Europe, saying this is total theft that is going on and will destroy confidence. Well, that's what it's designed to do. Bloomberg, of all people, his Bloomberg editorial board, not Bloomberg himself, has come out saying that the Cyprus bailout is the worst thing Europe has done in the entire crisis. Yeah, no kidding. It's a trial balloon. And so we're going to be breaking down also what the head of PIMCO has come out and said about this, saying it could lead to civil unrest and is robbery. So all of that is coming up today. Also, I haven't talked about this since it broke the last few days, but I did a little bit of research into it. And so I'll give you my take on the Bible show that's such a huge hit that we don't watch a lot of TV, and my children watch it. We allow them to watch it. Just to give you an example, it has about 5 times the ratings of other top shows on cable, and the establishment's pulling their hair out because people are sick of all the destructive negativity, all the anti-family, anti-God garbage. But, of course, it was pointed out as a meme online that even before Glenn Beck did it, I saw it last week. In fact, weeks ago, people were saying this guy looks like Obama, the guy that plays the devil. So I have a point I'm going to make later in the hour about that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Obama is the Antichrist. Obama is the Antichrist. But as the Bible says, there are many Antichrists. So I'm going to go over those quotes and give you my perspective. Not the Antichrist, a Antichrist. Of course, the television is the one-eyed eye of Sauron, or the Antichrist, being pumped full of venom towards you and your family. And I guess the devil is the prince of the power of the air. So that is coming up today as well. We're also going to get into more on the global economy, not just what's happening in the euro. Also, the feds are now moving to make children take anthrax shots. They've tried 3 times to give the U.S. military anthrax shots. And it killed so many people and doesn't even protect you that they suspended it. And now they're going to try to tell people it's the law to give their children that. You know, right now they're trying to approve it for newborn babies. I mean, you might as well just shoot them in the head right there on the spot. So that is coming up as well today. Now, let me first get into the top story, obviously. And we saw this coming last week. We saw it this week. You noticed last week, we could punch up my computer screen. I can show TV viewers this. There is March 15th, Los Angeles Times. That was over the weekend, or what, Friday or Saturday. What day was the 15th? I guess Friday. And it says right there, CIA begins sizing up Islamic extremists in Syria for drone strikes. Isn't that funny? And then on Sunday, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, calls for Obama to have strikes inside Syria to, quote, go after the chemical weapons. And they just leave it out there as a nebulous report. And that was in Israeli Channel 2 News, carrying his press conference. Kurt Nimmo wrote about it yesterday. Obama and Netanyahu to discuss attacks inside Syria and a buffer zone to now take more of Syria and make it part of Israel, and then later take more of Syria and make it part of Israel, and then later take more until there is no Syria basically even left. And that's what's going on. And they're playing on the abject, total, and complete ignorance of the general public about geopolitical issues, about the factions in the region, about any of it. And I told you 2.5, 3 years ago when they started the Libya liberation, the bombing campaign and the lining up the black Libyans and shooting them, and the al-Qaeda forces being brought into Benghazi by NATO, I said that they'll later have drone strikes on the al-Qaeda forces and say they've got to keep U.S. troops in Africa and use Libya as a base to project al-Qaeda all over Libya to then invade other countries. That's now all happened. That's all come out. And they've had African leaders come out and say there are blonde-haired, blue-eyed men leading al-Qaeda. They work for NATO and AFRICON as a pretext to take our country over. And the West will invade and take over the oil fields of countries and diamond fields. They've done this all over, or they'll use the UN and the French, as they did a few months ago in one African country. And they'll actually say, we're here to protect you from al-Qaeda. They're not even saying the governments are bad. They'll say, we're taking over to protect you from al-Qaeda. And the presidents and prime ministers will go, you are al-Qaeda. You did this. You blew up the chemical plant. You attacked the oil refineries. And they're like, doesn't matter. We're now controlling it. And so they'll put NATO and AFRICON troops just in the oil fields, sitting there on the natural resources, and then it's in the back of the paper. Oh, America's fighting al-Qaeda. And it's Anglos, British Special Forces, U.S. Special Forces. There's reports, photos, black U.S. citizen Special Forces. Black guys, white guys with the white guys really stand out in Africa. And it's just back of the paper. Just back of the paper that somebody just put this in really boiled down terms. Our government 2.5 years ago starts attacking Libya, almost 3 years ago. While they're rocket attacking, even had tanks and aircraft, they were calling them peaceful protesters being killed by Gaddafi. Gaddafi was raping women with brigades of troops fueled by Viagra. Wasn't true. But see, that's why the White House is so scared of this Obama is the devil, Obama is Satan meme. Just like Obama deception has now become the major meme through my film. It's been seen over 40 million times, free online, the Obama deception. Because they know the public's dumbed down to just Obama devil, Obama bad man. They know, of course, in his case, that's actually true. But with Gaddafi, it's Gaddafi is raping women, CNN's reporting, fueled by Viagra. Turned out it was all made up, all fake. Libya, you get put in prison for that. But there's real raping going on by the jihadis they put in charge of areas of Syria they've taken, and now areas that they've taken control of since they kicked Mubarak out and put al-Qaeda light in control of Egypt. So it's very simple. The globalists are putting al-Qaeda and jihadis and Saudi Arabian and Qatari and all these other special forces in, advised by Mossad, by Shin Bet, by MI6, by MI5, by CIA, by German special forces, French special forces. Did I mentioned British, NATO, and they just publicly operate. And they've invaded now in the last 22 months with over 100,000. Over 100,000 at any one time. It's about 50,000. Al-Qaeda, Taliban, some even out of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and they are blowing up churches and synagogues. They are chopping Christians' heads off on TV. When we posted it on our YouTube channel, they banned the video, and then we had to file all sorts of stuff to even keep our websites up, our video sites up for the public. Chopping Christian heads off, blowing up churches, and they've got about half of Syria under their control. They've got about half of Syria under their control. And again, people go, well, Assad's a bad guy. Really, his dad did some butchering, did some massacres compared to Al-Qaeda. He was an angel as well. I certainly don't want to live there. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not an Alawite. I'm an American. But I support the Bill of Rights Constitution. And I do not support preemptive, fraudulent, evil attacks, very evil, to inject Al-Qaeda into Libya and Syria, to overtake them, and then to wreck the infrastructure, to screw the countries up, and then now they're announcing they're getting ready to bomb Al-Qaeda in Syria, and I guarantee you when they do this, they're actually going to bomb Syrian forces. Because the public doesn't know the difference between Syria and the Syrian army and Assad and Al-Qaeda, and the news is actually going along with this. And so Israel said that they were attacking chemical weapons and stuff. Turned out they were killing Iranian generals that are there advising with Hezbollah. It doesn't matter. Just lie to the public. And again, I'm not a fan of the mullahs and what Iran's doing either, but they're not attacking us. And the globalists are trying to start a fight with them, too, because during that war, they can take our liberties at home. You see, it's the New World Order that is here taking control of my life and your life. It's the New World Order devaluing the dollar. It's the New World Order engaged in economic shutdowns of our economy. And so now, to go over the headlines here, you notice the red line. They said if any chemical weapons get used, and before this happened, we told you, they're shipping chemical weapons in. You know, Wayne Madsen, Webster Tarpley, reporters that have been there, gone to Syria, we've had on. And we've had Syrians on via Skype, and they said the word is they're bringing chemicals in to use them and blame us. And of course, Syria would never do that because it gives a pretext for an invasion. And it's not even a very good weapon against guerrilla forces you can't find. It's a weapon of terror. So it'll turn the population against them. They would never use it. So now Syrian rebels regime blame each other for first alleged chemical weapon attack. At least 25 dead. This is all going on today. And just yesterday, Obama and Netanyahu and the rest were saying, we've got to go attack or invade because of chemical weapons. And if al-Qaeda uses them, we'll go in too. So you put al-Qaeda in to overthrow a sovereign nation, and then you use al-Qaeda, and then when they use chemical weapons, you invade and overthrow the government you're attacking. Incredible. Jones here, back live. We're going to get into a bunch of other geopolitical news and economic news, and is Obama the Antichrist news coming up in the next segment. But for TV viewers, for radio listeners, you can just pull up these articles there at Infowars.com and places like DrudgeReport.com. And there's video as well. Syrian rebels fire chemical weapons in Aleppo, or Aleppo, how they pronounce it, killing at least 25, the government is saying. And, of course, al-Qaeda is denying responsibility. Now, I've been telling you for a year from our sources that they would stage a chemical attack and blame it on Syria. And that is now being done. In fact, here is an article right here out of the London Telegraph. Syria's regime accused rebel fighters of firing chemical weapons at a town in the country's north. The regime has claimed that up to 25 people were killed in the attack, which the rebels have denied responsibility for. This afternoon, the White House said it was looking carefully at allegations that a chemical weapon attack had taken place, with a spokesman saying there was no evidence yet to substantiate the claim that the rebels were responsible. Get ready for the White House to blame Syria. And this is just so amazing. Remember, it's the West that initiated this. Military attacks on the government, blowing up police stations, you name it, almost 2 years ago, about 23 months ago. And they have been running the whole thing, shipping armaments in. They gave al-Qaeda more than 10,000 missiles. Heat seekers is more like 20,000, but 10,000 of them are heat seekers. The Benghazi killing of the ambassador was to cover that up. Remember, they shipped guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. This is a criminal group. These aren't just words I'm saying here. It's scary to get up and expose these people, but it's got to be done. You realize it's revolutionary that this radio show is on the air all over the country. You realize it shows we haven't been fully taken over yet. You've just got criminals in government that sit up there engaging in giant hoaxes to sell the military, the police, the bureaucracy, the general public on tyranny. The truth is, America always faced these threats before, but why didn't we get rid of the Bill of Rights then? Because you don't get rid of the Bill of Rights. You don't get rid of the Bill of Rights to protect yourself. The Bill of Rights protects you. One of our great graphics people, Janae Meadows, award-winning graphics person. She makes big Hollywood posters, you name it. She just won a Diesel Clothing Award for her designs for Diesel Clothing. Side issue. She came by the office. She lives in California. Her and her boyfriend came by the office a few days ago and gave me this U.S. Fighting Man's Code. This is not the first time I've been given a version of this. I've got a bunch of these and always forget to cover them. But I want to do a TV piece where I show blow-ups of this, because if this was issued by Dwight D. Eisenhower. It even has an executive order in there, and he even wrote some of this. This is the guy that warned us about the military-industrial complex. If this was issued today by myself, the Southern Poverty Law Center would call it a terrorist document. And this was issued in 1956 by Dwight D. Eisenhower during the Korean War. And then it was used also in Vietnam. And I was reading this morning again, and I mean, it's like I wrote it. Look at the first page. The first page, when you open it, is resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. And it's all about how to resist torture. Americans don't torture. Americans don't spy without warrants. How communists operate, how they infiltrate society. And boy, you read this, you would think it was the Democratic Party and MSNBC. And you would think that the North Korean officers they describe are our government now, the ATF. And this is copyright open because it's the government. I ought to republish this, man. This is unbelievable. And then like have notes in it about how it compares to today. The fighting man's code. And you know, my greatest frustration is there's hundreds of news pieces we've got on the shelf that haven't been finished because I've got to write the voiceover for them. Now, that's no exaggeration. We probably got over 100 incredible reports where I've just bitten off more than I can chew and just can't get it all done. That's why I'm so frustrated. I want to see other talk show hosts, other people really get with the program and realize that this is all real and that we can save our society and our culture. I really want to do that desperately. Look at this in the back. It says, our reliance is in the love of liberty, which God has planted in us. Abraham Lincoln. I mean, you've got to love liberty to keep it. You don't just, it just doesn't happen. And it's all about God. I mean, you would never see this. They're taking the crosses down at the military bases, and they're replacing it with deviltry. All right, we're going to come right back. This country was founded by Christians who gave you the right, pointed out the right, that you can practice whatever religion you want. Now the people that use that right are trying to take our rights away. It's not separation of church and state. That doesn't mean, that means the state isn't involved in religion.
We're on the mark.
There has been a popular meme on the internet in the last week and a half or so pointing out the hit cable television series, The Bible, pointing out that the devil who goes throughout the series looks like Obama. And the reason the White House fears this is because it's the type of simple-minded meme that can actually get across to the population. That's why they said that Saddam had thrown babies out of incubators and stomped their brains out. They used a PR firm to put that out back in 1990, 1991. None of it was true. That was later admitted. That's why they said that Gaddafi had his troops raping women fueled by Viagra. It's just something saucy to demonize the people. And I'm not saying Saddam or Muammar Gaddafi were good guys either. It's just the globalist will demonize someone with an outlandish, over-the-top charge right before they destroy them. And so it's the type of yellow journalistic, simplistic demonization that the establishment understands because they know it's effective. It's like a meme. The Obama deception. Deception. I never meant that to even become a meme. I wanted to point out he was a liar. Now it's become a meme. And so Obama Satan, Obama the devil, has become a meme. Not just now. That's been going on for years. A lot of preachers and people like Pastor Manning saying they believe he is the Antichrist. Now, let me just say this. Undoubtedly, Obama lies at a level way beyond anything I've ever seen. But more than it being about Obama, it's about the season that Obama is in today. We are in the throes of global tyranny. We are in the throes of global decadence. We are in the throes of not just an evil establishment, but a more and more corrupt and decadent world population, disconnected from reality thanks to Hollywood and other culture-destroying corrosive elements. We're following into a very decadent sector of the cycle. Now, I don't like Obama. He's a horrible tyrant. He reads off a teleprompter. He is a globalist insider. He's obviously very intelligent, but still a puppet, just like George W. Bush, who obviously isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. But he has been an effective evil, not a lesser of two evils from Mitt Romney or George W. Bush, but a more effective evil, as former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney has pointed out here on this broadcast. And so it's fun at a base level to demonize Obama, and it's also effective. But you need to understand that he is the figurehead. He is the masthead. He's the goddess they've got on the front of the boat. He's the gargoyle they've got guarding the entrance to the castle. But he still is the pitchman. Like so many corporate presidents, it's their job to go to all the events and go to the golf parties and, go cut the red ribbons. He is a front man, but he represents the establishment, and he is light years more deceptive than even Slick Willie. He makes George W. Bush's fumbling lying look tame, and the lies are mega whoppers. There will be no pre-existing conditions that are not covered. Massive expansion of pre-existing conditions under Obamacare. Doubling of premiums on average, written by the insurance companies, death panels to deny people brain surgery, eye surgery, knee surgery, hellish control. The collectivist trap, your supermarket purchasing records with smart cards uploaded to Homeland Security and then to the Department of Health and Human Services. I mean, beyond 1984. Insurance premiums going up if they see you're buying too much beer and Bluebell Dutch chocolate ice cream. They know when you go and buy a knee bandage. It's all put into computer algorithms. Everything. Living in a glass house. The end of justice. Obama funding massive abortion worldwide. Obama funding forced abortion, where they basically make you have an abortion if you want any government funding in India and areas of Africa, while saying he cares about the third world. My point is that Obama is the closest to the devil of any president we've ever had, if you look at the characteristics of the devil. If you look at the characteristics of the biblical devil, or the devil in even other cultures, Hindu, you name it, it is very, very similar and very, very close to what Obama's doing, because we do have a devilish power structure. We do have a power structure that is absolutely degenerated and gotten away with more and more, and a public that has just accepted that they're going to lie to us. And so now the bottom has fallen out. The floor has fallen out, and there's nothing there underpinning us. There's no rudder. And so the sky, or the pit of hell, is the limit. So that said, it's fun to call him the Antichrist. It's fun to make, connections and allusions to it. But I wanted to explain to people here with some Bible verses. Here's one out of John 2:18. Even now there are many Antichrist in the world. Even now there are many Antichrist. Here's another Bible verse I want to get to before I break this down. John 8:44. You are of the father, the devil. You are of your father, the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. Whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. I don't want the NDAA to pass, and then turns out Obama and his lawyers wrote it. Then don't worry, I won't sign it, and then does sign it. We've got to attack Syria because Al-Qaeda is there and Assad is with Al-Qaeda, publicly knowing that they put Al-Qaeda in and that they run Al-Qaeda in Libya, Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, worldwide. That is lies within lies. What is it when a global corporate government funds all sides of a conflict? That is a full spectrum lie. The whole thing is an artificial, synthetic, counterfeit of conflict. You want the oil? You want the opium? Fund a terror group. Don't even really take out that terror group. Arrest innocent 12-year-old kids. Take them and torture them for 7 years at Guantanamo Bay, and then make them jihadi brigade commanders for your next war. That's why they admit, why are they releasing everyone from Guantanamo Bay after 5, 6, 7 years, and they all go become terrorists? And then they have... It's even in the news where the jihadi commander of al-Qaeda in Libya is allowed to travel to the United States. And everyone's like, why is that? Because he works for the globalists that have hijacked America. Is that not the father of lies? Is that not a system that gives birth to lies? So yes, Barack Obama is an antichrist. In fact, he's the greatest modern expression of a slick, good-looking liar who can tell lies on top of lies, twisted within other lies, with added spin and deception. So yes, it resonates that Obama is a devil. But so are the Republican leadership that work with him and act like they're opposing him when they actually aren't. And then they create that synthetic response, that dialectic, where the two sides come together, but they're actually within the same spectrum, and then agree on what the social engineers already wanted. Bush comes in, tyranny, oppression, all these new regulations. Obama comes in, tyranny, oppression, new regulations. And as soon as Obama leaves office, the dictatorship of the office will be there. The presidency is now dictatorial by every yardstick, but the president himself leaves. See, another deception, and a new puppet, a new figurehead, the new prom king, the new prom queen, the new front, they step in to that position to play king for a day, so that you associate all the tyranny and all the hatred that you put into the system on them, and so a new fresh face comes in. Like a knight who has a shield in combat, Obama is a shield, Bush is a shield or a shill, a foil. They take the heat. They are the surrogates of the globalists. And when the night is done with Obama, he'll throw the shield off and take on a new shield. And sure, the shield is disgusting. The shield has the enemy signet. The shield is a projection of the teleprompter. It is the propaganda of the globalists. It's like birdcage liner. I'm focusing on the parrot, the New World Order buzzard that sits there defecating on us, and that we have to feed and take care of and listen to, squawking at us. And the media always focuses on Clinton or Bush or Obama, the bird cage liner. And, oh, the buck stops with them, and red carpets and thousands of troops on the streets to protect them when they go to third world countries or America, so that it's all the pomp and circumstance, the great and magnificent Oz. I am the great and wondrous Oz. See me and tremble. And F-18s fly over him at his inauguration, and 1 million people come out, and red carpets and Hollywood stars and dinners, and marveling at the president and the sycophantic salivation over everything he's doing. Is that not Satan? Is that not the power of the prince and of the air? Is that not the power of the prince and the principalities? Is that not what the Bible, please give me the verse, the evil in high places, where Satan, the devil, takes Christ up on the mountain and says, all of this could be yours. I control every government out there. Bow to me, kneel to me, and I will make you the Antichrist. I will give you dominion over this planet. The delusion of Satan, who'd been given dominion to test, to be part of the test of God's elect, saying to the physical incarnation of the creator of the universe, I will give you this mote of dust, this nothing. What a joke. And God, in the body of Christ, had to bring himself down to the level of 40 days with no food to put himself in a weakened position to fully conquer his flesh. I can't drive by a steakhouse without wanting to go in and eat that meat. If I smell it, it's over. I can't stand to be at a party where alcohol's being drunk and not drink it. I am weak. My flesh is weak. But Christ went and conquered his flesh 40 days without food in the desert. and his body absolutely at its weakest to be offered food and drink and the whole world and all of it flashing through his mind, because God had to desire and smell women and see their beautiful curves and their electric eyes and the flesh's desire. Christ had to have that first test, a shadow of his crucifixion, a shadow of the great test that was coming. That even though it was God in the flesh, God said, I will show you what I can do. God in the flesh. Jesus wept thinking about being beaten and tortured, all of it going through his mind, and all the sins of everybody before him and currently and after to be piled on in a giant psychic experience of being fed all the child molesting, all the murder, all the death, all the torture, all the mothers crying, all the sorrow, all the degradation, all of it. All of it, the children with buzzards eating their bodies, all of it, trillions and trillions of experiences fed right through the eye of God, straight through Jesus Christ. The creator of the universe physically experiencing that in an earth suit on this planet. That's the opposite of the devil. The devil with the red carpets and the jumbo jets and all the soulless, unhappy Hollywood people. Yes, Obama is the Antichrist. He is a Antichrist. He is the spirit of the world. He is the spirit of Beelzebub, Baphomet, Leviathan, the devil. He is the devil. Barack Obama is the devil. And any of you that turn yourselves over willingly to deception and willingly to lies and willingly to hurt the innocent, you are of the devil and you are Antichrist. All of us who have flesh, we are at one level the Antichrist. But our soul is different. But when you turn your soul over to evil, knowing God's truth, experiencing and tasting of the Holy Spirit and denying it and saying, I go with Satan, that is the ultimate sin. And you are damned at that point because you have shut the door. I just feel sorry for people that have never even experienced the depthless waters of creation. So to expand on all this, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Obama is a Antichrist. Obama is as wicked as the day is long, but he is only a pathetic puppet. He is only a pathetic agent of the great evil that is to manifest on this planet. He is only a precursor. He is only in the satanic evolution part of the system building towards what is to come. And so everybody jokes around, and it's fun to call him the devil and fun to call him the Antichrist and to say, oh, the guy on the Bible TV show, you know, the hit show, he looks like Obama, on and on and on and on. It's you know, something entertaining to do, to sit there and say, oh, he's the devil. But if you look at the works of Obama, if you look at what Obama actually stands for, if you look at what Obama has become, if you look at what Obama really does versus what he says he's going to do, it's pure deception. Telling poor people, I'm going to give you free health care, and forcing them to buy double price care that is watered down and becomes a government death panel to control our lives, to collectivize everyone and put us all into a system where the general public can sit there and lecture all of us and say, oh, well, I can tell you what to eat. I can tell you how much to sleep. I can tell you where you can go because we're all in this together now. It's like making the whole country one giant weird homeowners association, but it's a homeowners association run by child molesting devil worshipers who now have access into your bank accounts, what you buy, what you do, can take the money out of your account. Imagine the cashless society once it comes in, when they could turn your chip off and you could buy or sell, and when you try to get food, that's the ultimate crime, punishable by forced labor in one of these satanic FEMA death camps they've built. So yes, Obama is an Antichrist, not the Antichrist. And he is of his father, the devil. He is a liar. It is his nature. Alex Jones here, back live. Life is very, very short. It's why the globalists are obsessed with life extension technologies. They fear the afterlife, and they should. If you expand on the things that are happening in our culture, you can just see how the lies, even though people don't trust the system, they still don't know what to do because the system never admits what it's doing, even when it's public, because they don't want to have a debate. It's a way of just stonewalling, saying, I'm not going to talk about it, because we're going into a dictatorial system. And here's an article up at Infowars.com, speaking of deception. For about a year, they've been stonewalling now what is 2 billion bullets, armored vehicles, paramilitary training, Army Times admitting preparing for domestic operations, Homeland Security reports saying gun owners, conservatives, libertarians are the enemy. This is a domestic buildup. And now New Jersey Congressman Leonard Lance, a Republican, has demanded an explanation from Secretary of Homeland Security Janet Napolitano as to why the Department of Homeland Security is buying huge amounts of bullets. And we'll play his question and her response here in just a moment. But the issue here is that you notice they just still have Politico and Media Matters, both White House organs, come out and say it doesn't exist, and then laugh. And then their commenters, who are mainly just bots, sit there and laugh and say, aren't they insane, to create a perception for other people that come and read that, oh, this isn't true. Look, not only is the establishment saying it, not only is the snake saying eat of the fruit, it's good, but Eve is taking a bite and is saying, look at him, it's good. See, they like to have the establishment lie and then have a big gallery. They could even be, you know, robots in the future that look like people, as long as they laugh and go, ah. See, that's how the psychology works. And they've got it down to make you feel like you're weird. Like, I think Waco was horrible, how they blew that place up and burned it up and used the military. Oh, shut up, kook. You know, I don't like the TSA grabbing my genitals. Oh, shut up, kook. Well, first it's we don't do that, and then, oh, shut up. What's wrong with that? Again, it's about dominating you. But that isn't working anymore. The good news is they're having to admit that they're the Wizard of Oz, that it's all a big fraud now. Let's go ahead and go to that clip. It's up at Infowars.com. We are breaking this. There has been no coverage of this. Here it is.
Recently, Forbes magazine published an article in which they voiced concern about the Department of Homeland Security and other non-military federal agencies purchasing over 1.5 billion rounds of ammunition. And that far exceeds anything they've purchased in the past. In addition to that, recently they've acquired close to 3,000 heavily armed vehicles that are being used for, they say, domestic purposes. What's going on here?
I think Congress should ask the department about both of those issues, and I would like a full explanation as to why that has been done. And I have every confidence that the Oversight Committee, or perhaps the Intelligence Committee, but I would imagine the Oversight Committee should ask those questions, and I do not tonight have an answer as to why they did what they did, but I certainly share a belief that Congress has a responsibility to ask Secretary Napolitano as to exactly why these purchases have occurred.
How concerned are you about this?
I am concerned, and I think that we have to make sure we continue to live in a country based on freedom, a country based upon individual rights, and I hope that we in Congress get the answers to these questions. And I'll give you another example. We're certainly in the House, we've been working hard, not the
that's pretty much the end of it. But the issue is he's officially also reportedly sent a letter asking for it. No answer yet, so that's her answer. She'll probably say it doesn't exist. Even though it publicly exists. Like they said, there's no drone program. Wizard of Oz, lie to the population. Lyndon LaRouche is coming up. Here are some of the headlines up at Infowars.com. UT professors analyze Alex Jones and Rand Paul's following and find they're some of the most important pro-liberty followings in the country. I'm sure that group of professionals will get in trouble. That's in the Daily Texan. Chase customers see bank balance reduced to zero. Oh, yeah. Might want to see that article by Paul Joseph Watson. Congressman asked Big Sis to explain huge ammo purchases. No word yet from his letter. Ron Paul, the congressional budget debate is just a sideshow. Yeah, compared to the big derivatives issues and the rest of it, it's all distraction. They're, deciding what type of Chardonnay to have on the Titanic as it's listing. Feinstein's gun bill crumbles, but they've got all their gun show ban stuff in there, which is a registration program. Ex-chancellor warns of bank runs across Europe. The Great Cyprus bank run shows that no bank account is safe. It's not called a haircut, it's theft when government loots your private bank accounts. Mike Adams, Gerald Celente, Cyprus looting is only the beginning for the global elite. Now, I wanted to get him on about a month ago, but he's been too busy, and I understand why. Just about the financial meltdown, about all the tyranny Obama's pushing. But now, we like to have people on that are accurate. People that are right over and over again, and that get demonized. And so coming up the next segment for the rest of the hour, Lyndon LaRouche is going to be joining us. 90 years old, has the brain of about a 30-year-old. I tell you, he's certainly my model when it comes to what I wish I'd be like when I'm that old. He's going to be joining us, and he really is an iconic individual when it comes to the American political landscape. And that's why the media just demonizes him. But I'll talk about that as we officially introduce him in the next segment. But I know he's there listening right now as I saw him on the line over there on video Skype. They got the best video Skype I've ever seen, by the way. It looks like he's in the room. That's coming up. If you're a TV viewer or if you're a radio listener, you should go subscribe right now to prisonplanet.tv. It's 15 cents a day for 11 memberships, 55 cents a person or less a month, 11 memberships for one master sign-up. Create a username and passcode you can share. 11 people can simultaneously log on to the daily radio show and the nightly news, 7 o'clock Central. That's prisonplanet.tv. And I want to thank all of you that are members. We couldn't do it without you, and we just keep upgrading prisonplanet.tv and its 10-year history. My book, Paul Watson's book, in ebook versions are all up there. All of my films, and now the nightly news, we're posting HD quality of that, sitting on high-quality streams as well. So if you're not a prisonplanet.tv member, now is the time. We're also going to have Cody Wilson. We broke the story last year with the Don Salazar. Since then, it's been in hundreds of major publications. The inventor of the 3D printable gun and printable clips, who is a thought criminal and been listed as a major threat by the globalists. He is going to be joining us in studio as well today, and we'll open the phones up for that gentleman. Perhaps even for Lyndon LaRouche. I want to ask him if he wants to take calls. He may have a bunch of issues he wants to cover and not be interrupted by your questions. But questions also bring up good wild card elements. But when we come back with Lyndon LaRouche, I want to ask him about just the paramilitary buildup domestically, what it means to have these Cyprus thefts going on with 10% of the account being grabbed, German bank head calling for grabbing Italian money. There's no way to prop it up. If it's 1,000+ quadrillion, then what do you do? I mean, there's no way to prop it up. And again, he's the guy first. When I was first reading their writings, I mean, I knew about him in the 80s and 90s, but when I was in college in the early 90s, I first read their intelligence review magazine, newspaper that comes out, and it just really fit with my own research. And then over the years, it's just been proven to be incredibly accurate. You can disagree with their solutions or with their interpretation of solutions, but I don't think you can disagree with the analysis provided by the LaRouche PAC and the LaRouche organization, and that's why they're so demonized. So he joins us on the other side of this quick break. Please stay with us. Here back live. Thank you for joining us here in the second hour today. There have been reported chemical attacks in northern Syria, and the West is openly trying to blame it on Assad when they've been predicting that the al-Qaeda forces the West has put in there would use chemical weapons on them to overthrow the country and turn it over to the jihadis. I'm no fan of Assad, but this is quite a war crime being committed by the globalists to put people, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 times worse in charge. I'm going to get Lyndon LaRouche's take on that, the world economy, the bank holiday running for 4 or 5 days in Cyprus, causing all sorts of panics in stock markets and bond markets around the world. Now, Lyndon LaRouche, I've got to say, really is a true visionary and trailblazer. And now that does not mean that I agree with all of his political solutions. But you've got to undoubtedly say that he predicted the financial meltdown that would come out of the end of Glass-Steagall. He predicted the derivatives crisis. He predicted the mega banks creating a global government that they control to carry out the implosion of society instead of the buildup of society. He was the first that I really saw exposing eugenics. And, of course, he'd been doing it for decades before I ran into his writings. And I had separately studied history on my own, so when I read his writings in their executive intelligence briefing magazine that they put out, I knew that the history was accurate, and I also learned a lot from it. But you notice they have these throwaway lines of, oh, you say megabanks are going to implode the world economy and bring in a global fascist system. That's Lyndon LaRouche. Or, oh, you're saying there's a plan to bankrupt the third world to commit genocide. That's Lyndon LaRouche. No, that's Lyndon LaRouche reporting on the Club of Rome, reporting on the UN, reporting on the British Empire, reporting on the globalist. And until he was demonized and set up, it was in the Washington Post that the CIA director under Reagan says he's got the best private intelligence group in the world. And, you know, weekly he'd land in his helicopter. He'd fly his helicopter over like George Jetson and landed at the CIA center in Langley and go advise them. And then they'd send him to talk to the Russians or talk to whoever. Very important guy. And then now they just say, oh, the crazy man that said we'd have a banking meltdown. Wow, he said the sun came up. You know, he was a visionary. And it's an example of incredible spin. It's like, there's no 2 billion bullets. There's no armored vehicles. You know, we're not hopelessly in debt. Agenda 21 isn't shutting down the economy. They just laugh at saying, hey, water is good for you. That crazy man said water was good for you. They play these mind games, okay, and really try to demonize anybody that's hitting on target. John Birch Society accurately predicted what was going to happen. You'll hear these one-line throwaway lines of John Birch Society, crazy people. I mean, just incredibly calm, focused, scholarly, breaking down from a right-wing view the global corporate fascist takeover. LaRouche, you could say, from a left-wing view, but now he's called a right-winger, and an extreme right-wing by the Washington Post. The truth is he's a populist, and you can learn so much. I mean, he kept saying, we're in danger from asteroids hitting the Earth. The last time he was on 6 months ago. Now look at what's been happening with all these asteroids, and saying we're going through this asteroid intergalactic belt, not just the smaller belt around us. Now they're admitting that's happening. So enough of an introduction. I want to get him on about the economy, all the things that are happening. But first off, sir, joining us via video Skype for TV viewers, for radio listeners, you can go to prisonplanet.tv and watch us right now. What is front and center on your radar screen right now, sir? I want to give you the floor for the next 7-8 minutes till we come back from break, and then I've got some questions of my own, but I want to cover the waterfront because you said we're going to enter this global crisis, and now North Korea, the Middle East, the dollar, the world bond market, where are we right now? What is most important in your view right now, sir?
The most important thing right now is the danger of thermonuclear war. And as long as we have this president in position, we are at great risk. Now, in these matters of this kind of warfare, you can't really predict because you don't know whether you're going to get thermonuclear war, which means general human extinction, or we're not. In the meantime, we have a process going on, like other processes, which are important because they are turning points or potential turning points in the situation. For example, we have the agreement by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who are now going to meet with Russians on the question of dealing with things like asteroids and other threats that are now becoming much more prevalent. We also have the need to build up systems to defend us against things that are flying around in nearby space. So we have a situation in which we can identify things that should be discussed and decided, but we have no certainty that any of these things will be the outcome. This is a real war type situation, broader than just warfare itself, in which the questions are more clear than the answers. And that's the way I think we have to keep it. We cannot give you guaranteed answers. We can say what the answers are to certain questions, posed the right way, just like this negotiation is going on with Russia and our Joint Chiefs of Staff now. We don't know what the outcome is, but we do understand the problem. And that's the way it is down the line. But the key thing that is certain, if this president remains in office, the United States is finished.
What are the power structures? What are the factions from your deep connections, Mr. LaRouche, right now, in layman's terms for the audience? Boil it down so we understand the parties involved and what we, the people in the middle, can do to tip the balance towards a less violent outcome.
Well, the first thing we have to think about is we have to think about the United States, not because it is our United States as such, but because the creation of the United States, following what Christopher Columbus did, we had attempts to open up the Atlantic Ocean and to move out from Europe to new options in the other side of the Atlantic. Everything broke down eventually, and suddenly it was our Massachusetts development and things like that, which set the tone for what would be the new replacement for the problems of Europe. So our United States, as corrupted as that has become, nonetheless represents the one major force on which the hope of the world actually depends. There are other nations which will cooperate with us, some certainly, others hopefully. But that's our situation.
So you're saying the world's future really does rise and fall on recapturing the republic that has been the laboratory of true renaissance in the last 300 years?
Absolutely. If you look at the situation in the transatlantic region and elsewhere, there are many nations which have capabilities. Europe has generally lost its capabilities in the recent decades. We in the United States, we have been partly destroyed, especially since the young Bush administration and this current Obama administration. Those forces have almost destroyed the United States. But there is reason to be optimistic. I can't predict the victory, but I can tell you what I'm optimistic about. And I see what happened after the indoctrination and installation of Obama the second round, that I see things in our people, movements among our people, in groups of people, which are, for me, are very optimistic things. When the American people awaken from a long period of quasi-sleep or despair and so forth, and as you see in the political system now, a gradual moving in a new direction, searching for a new direction. And you see it in the members of Congress. You see it in the divisions that are occurring among Republicans. Republicans are no longer fully agreed with each other on most positions. And Democrats, we don't know quite where they are, but we have ideas of where some people would like to go. So we're in a position of potential change.
I agree, but let's look at the geopolitical layout, because you've been putting out some of your video press releases that are particularly powerful when you break down all the factions. What are the Anglo-American British imperialists trying to do right now? What is their game plan around the world? Because they do seem to be particularly agitated right now.
Well, if you look at the history of the United States since the installation of Andrew Jackson, who really was nothing except a big noise, there were other people who were British-directed. British banking terms actually took over the Andrew Jackson administration. And so these are the kinds of things in history we have to look at. But our United States recently has begun to realize how bad the current two presidents, young Bush and Obama, are. And they want to change. And we have I think that's an option for it. There are bigger things than that on the horizon.
Well, I want to cover what you think is most important and what's happening in the banking structure, how bad the global financial meltdown is, because, again, you called it when they got rid of Glass-Steagall back in the late 90s. And so I want to come back from break and ask you, what you think, well, briefly, what's happening with Cyprus and the grabbing of that money? Are they trying to cause a panic?
Well, that kind of thing is going on. The general situation is we are at the verge, especially in the transatlantic region. We are on the verge of a general breakdown crisis, which can come on suddenly. We are already in a breakdown crisis. It has not disintegrated yet, but it's on the verge of disintegration.
Leonard LaRouche is our guest. We'll give you his websites when we come back. But the most important thing is I want you to define breakdown crisis, define triggers for thermonuclear war, and why you've been saying the last year we're entering the greatest danger zone of that in modern history, which is now manifesting. I want you to explain it to us all on the other side. This is important. Leonard LaRouche is our guest. I'm Alex Jones. And we are back live. Leonard LaRouche is joining us. Again, we have guests on who've accurately predicted things. And you notice the people that have done that are the ones that are demonized, because the power structure does not want you knowing this. So you've got the Russian bloc, the Chinese bloc, the kind of U.S.-British bloc, the EU, all in the middle of that. And it's all interconnected. But Leonard LaRouche, what is a breakdown crisis? Why are you saying we're in the danger of a nuclear war? Why did you say that a year ago, and now we're seeing the sabers rattled and Russian fleets going to Cyprus and all of it? In fact, you even sent me a report, Cyprus, Glass-Steagall. So break that down for us.
Well, without Glass-Steagall, the United States economy is finished. We're already in a hyperinflationary explosion. And unless we can cancel most of the banks, which are not Glass-Steagall banks, or don't conform to what Glass-Steagall banks would mean, this nation is finished. And it can be finished on any day or any week in the near future. I've been pushing for Glass-Steagall as absolutely necessary. We also need something in addition to Glass-Steagall. We need the actual reestablishment of a credit system for the United States. That is, where the federal government will create a pool of lendable currencies on approval for projects which are deemed responsible. We need those things. For example, we have a number of large projects for the United States. We've been losing everything. You take the central states of the United States, they've been destroyed over the past years. The worst things have happened since, again, young Bush came in, and Obama, and we've really destroyed the food-producing section of the United States. We no longer have the ability to guarantee a food supply for the people of the United States. That is something which we have to deal with.
Why do the globalists, why do the eugenicists always obsess on making people dependent? I know the answer, because that's the name of the game, total control. But expanding on this, when you talk about we could be finished any day financially, here's a headline at Infowars.com, breaking, only covered by a local ABC News channel. Chase customers see bank account balance reduced to zero. Glitch stokes panic on Twitter. Now that was just a glitch, but describe what you're saying, sir. Could happen overnight. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, what was done in terms of the hyperinflation done, which has gone on, we are absolutely bankrupt, and it's the banks, the big banks, which are the problem. You have to put this thing through bankruptcy reorganization now as a preventive measures to enable us to start a program of economic growth. Without a radical change in economic growth, without the end to this so-called green policy, the United States is doomed. The green policy is the greatest enemy inside the United States. It's also the enemy launched by Britain. Europe is full of it. So the very fact we are not producing the amount of food required to maintain our population.
And look at how Greece and Spain have adopted it, and they admit it's wrecked them. And China can build 3 new plants a week. We can't even have 1 a year. For those that don't know, explain to them, sir, what the so-called green movement really is.
Well, the idea, very clear. In the Denmark attempt to establish a world tyranny on that basis of the Queen's idea, they came out with this idea of actually genocide, or the Queen's policy, and it's not just her personal policy, it's the policy of the British Empire, is to reduce the world's population from the present estimated level of 7 billion persons to the order of 1.2 billion people. That is the policy, and if you look around you, you look in Europe, you know that is the policy in practice. It was under this influence that we shut down the food production in the Central Plains area. We do not presently produce enough food to take care of the entire U.S. population. We are on a policy of reduction of population. And when you talk about that, what the Queen has insisted upon, and all of the people associated with her on this, is to reduce the human population rapidly now from 7 billion people level to 1.2.
Sir, we got a long segment coming up. Let's expand on that, because if it's a new listener out there tuning in for the first time, maybe saying, what on earth are they talking about? The Queen doesn't run anything. We're going to explain the fact that she does and break that down with Lyndon LaRouche. We'll also give you the websites. It's LaRouchePAC.com, just LaRouchePAC.com. We'll be right back on the other side of this quick break. This couldn't be more important.
We're on the march.
Back live, Lyndon LaRouche is our guest. Here's one of the headlines up at Prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. Chase customers see bank balance reduced to zero. Millions of Chase Bank customers were affected by an unfortunately timed glitch, which resulted in their checking and savings accounts showing a zero balance for several hours yesterday, prompting many to take to Twitter and express panic that their money had been stolen, probably another test. Reaction to the glitch was undoubtedly made more intense by the fact that the top global news story yesterday was how residents of Cyprus were facing a mandatory tax that would see 10% of their savings plundered by the banker bailout. And again, there is the problem, and we have a link to ABC News 7 reporting it. This is not a national story. It's only on that local news station. It should be a national story. It is now via Infowars.com, because it shows you that they can devalue your currency overnight, Weimar Republic or Zimbabwe style, or they can just simply take the money out of your account, which is what Davos and the globalists are calling for more and more. And I'm going to talk to Lyndon LaRouche about that and continue with some of the solutions that he's developed from his deep historical understanding. But first off, during these dangerous times, it's important to support alternative media, real media that's nonpartisan, that has a constitutionalist, truly progressive view, not the fake socialist, eugenicist, Agenda 21, post-industrial. You know, we're here talking about the post-industrial system where 30 years ago we could feed the whole world. Now half our food's imported. They estimate within another 5 years it'll be 70%. I mean, this is done by design with regulations and red tape, and all the real environmental crises we've got, they're all ignored, and they say it's carbon that humans exhale, carbon dioxide that plants engage in photosynthesis with, basically breathe. They list something that's life-giving, part of the carbon cycle, and then ignore all the real things they're doing. I mean, it's just amazing that it's a piratical system that seeks to go to even nation states. They're going to get away from nations and go to city-states, which are exempt from their globalism. That it's basically the Rome model, the British City of London model, the Israel model, the Vatican model, the Washington, D.C. model, with their own little insulated, almost floating fortresses of evil like the Legion of Doom. And I'm ranting. We're going to go back to Lyndon LaRouche here. But it is important, folks, while the internet's still somewhat free, they're moving to block that now because we're effective. That quickening, that awakening is happening. They want to use the quickening to collectivize and get everybody on corporate welfare, not to empower, but to control. We've got to use the quickening to re-energize the American system. So please go to InfoWarsStore.com, get the magazine at cost, the big color glossy magazine showing how the globalists want to cause a civil war. Get the March issue. It's almost sold out. It will sell out. Get them in bulk, or get a subscription and support the free press. Or get Pro Pure water filters discounted, 10% off with promo code WATER. Buy the T-shirts, the book, support our sponsors. Click on our advertisers. That's how we're able to build a strong organization in the front and in the face of the imploding global system. So support Infowars.com. Spread the word about our local AM and FM affiliates. Don't take this information for granted. InfoWarsStore.com, or you can call our great crew and ask any questions about discounts and DVDs and films and books and some of the new arrivals. 888-253-3139, 855-825-3139. Now, Lennon, I want to move quick here with you through a bunch of subjects and get into some of the topics you think are most important. But what do you say about supporting alternative press like what you're doing over there with LaRouche PAC, LaRouche Pub? I mean, how important is that? Because obviously the New World Order, globalist, eugenics media, the post-industrial media, they're not going to tell us the victories we're having. But that's not me putting perfume on a pig or putting out pro-propaganda like a cheerleader. As ham-fisted and primitive as I am at many levels, I've been very effective. You've been very effective in your 60 years of fighting. But now, when I go out on the street of Austin or even go to other cities, instead of every fifth person stopping me, it's every other person. Or sometimes everyone in a restaurant comes over. Sometimes every person I see hiking on the Greenbelt comes over. I mean, the popularity of our broadcast, let's not exaggerate, is growing fourfold every year right now, and is extremely viral. What does that say towards your awakening and how important it is for people to support you and others?
Well, there are several things to consider. First of all, there is people are frightened. They're disgusted as well as frightened. And that's a fact. But that doesn't give you the answer. That does not give you the solution. More people are upset by these conditions. But that being upset does not solve the problem. You have to have measures which are concrete. You have to mobilize people around such measures. You have to make the changes in policy, especially in economic policy, which are essential to save this nation from extinction. And not only our nation, but our nation has a very significant role that most Americans no longer recognize. Because we are a special creation. We have a history. One could go into that. But the point is, we were destroyed and corrupted from within. Many of our presidents have been corrupting agents. Some other presidents have saved us. But the United States has an inherent role in the history of mankind, in the entire history of mankind, which is absolutely unique. And it's something that started essentially with Columbus's travels across the Atlantic as a discoverer. It came into Massachusetts. Massachusetts was crushed. Then Massachusetts people like Benjamin Franklin fought back and created a new kind of nation which had never existed to man's knowledge before. Now, we still have, through the way we handle immigration, we took people who were poor from all over the world. We brought them into the United States. They went through successive generations of rising in terms of their condition, their culture, and so forth. We in the United States are actually the pivot of the possibility of maintaining this planet, really, for us, and that sort of thing. But if we fail, if we drop the ball, if we no longer provide that kind of leadership, which was brought into Massachusetts, and is a part of this Columbus sequel, if we drop the ball, the world is doomed. They need us. And many parts of the world know they need us, or they need us in some respect. In China, there's a recognition in China today that the United States is needed. There's an acute sense of Russia. The United States is needed. You have people in Europe who are suffering, threatened by destruction of their whole nation. They need us. But let's talk about the globalists that have hijacked America. You've talked about their exterminism, ultra-Hitlerian mindset, Hitler being one of their creations. But for many years, you've pointed out that the ruling class are insane. And I understand that they're very intelligent, have intelligent bureaucracies that know how to deceive. But knowing their mindset or their tropism, what is the real state of the world right now? I mean, quantify that and then where it's going. I think my experience and my knowledge of history, this is not merely a matter of how many people are bad or so forth. It's a question, do we have a part of our population which is able to contribute leadership, which, most people were born in history, modern history and even ancient history, were born as poor people. Poorly educated, downtrodden, oppressed. They didn't have good knowledge. And then once in a while, like with Shalaban, you had somebody comes up and creates a whole new system, then he dies, and very soon after that, what he had accomplished disintegrated. So the idea of the quality of leadership, of people who are dedicated and capable of understanding what leadership is.
That's why you see civilizations appear, grow, and then collapse of their own corruption. We definitely have that same brain rot, but now we have nuclear weapons, and we see all the armies lining up, and then we see the bankers looting people's private bank accounts when it's impossible to pay off the derivatives. What do they think they're going to do in the city of London? What do...
Well, you could say there's something satanic about the British monarchy, and you go back and if you know the history, and very few people do know the history, because it's available for them, actually the British Empire is a product of the Roman Empire. And when the Roman Empire... The
Venetian black nobility. So explain their game plan. Exactly. Explain how the Queen runs things.
First of all, you had the Roman Empire disintegrated in a large degree. The leading families of the Roman Empire went up the Adriatic and became Venetians. And the Venetians went through a crisis, and then you had a second Venetian. Then you had a Venetian called William of Orange. William of Orange invaded Britain, and generally committed genocide against the Irish, which is one of the sports of the British monarchy these days still. And therefore, what we got into this kind of situation. We now have still the legacy of the Roman Empire in particular, which is a strong force culturally in Europe, and is in terms of, for example, take the case of in some of our presidents, and we found what happened is the British banks moved in, taking over a presidency, moved in to the New York area and the Massachusetts area. The British bankers, British banking system, imperial banking system, took control of the United States up to the time of the Civil War. The Lincoln broke that off, but then the same thing came back again. And
this was in all our newspapers then, and then in 22 with Proud House and the CFR. This was the public battle. I mean, what you're talking about was front page news for 100+ years. Nowadays, it's conspiracy theory. Just like if you told an ancient that the moon, really wasn't a man, that it was a rock satellite, they would think you were a conspiracy theorist. The level of ignorance, but you're saying you're seeing a rediscovery of this.
Yeah, that's what we are seeing in the population now. They're disgusted. The hatred against Obama, mixed with the fear of Obama, is what is defining thing. And also what's happening, the political parties, which thought they were solid, Republican and Democrat, are no longer that. They say still exist in terms of name, but if you look at the inside of the discussions...
Same people.
Yeah.
So they're putting out a hoax that he's been endorsed, that he's loved, but all the real evidence shows total collapse of confidence. I hear our police chief on local radio saying there's been a collapse in confidence. I'm not bad. I'm not with the bad guys. And I hear other police chiefs and people talking like that. And I hear other mainline hosts admitting across the board, we've got tyranny. I agree with you that there is an epiphany beginning to happen right now. Let me ask you this question. The thousands of armored vehicles being deployed, the checkpoints, the 2 billion bullets, the urban warfare drills, the military admits they've been told to prepare for gun confiscation. That's in the Army manuals now. But then Obama's people stonewall and say there are no drones, there are no bullets. What is this domestic buildup for?
What you're talking about, really, a situation which is going toward thermonuclear war. So that the idea that there's some power more powerful than the issue of thermonuclear war is a piece of idiocy. The world is threatened by thermonuclear war. Now, a thermonuclear war is not just a war. It is not throwing missiles at something. This is a process which, if undertaken with the capabilities which now exist, that thermonuclear war launched within 1 hour can result in the extinction of the human species.
Wow, so you're saying they're gearing up domestically because they're getting ready for nuclear war?
Not really. It goes together with that. But it's not a simple scheme.
How does the nuclear war start? On the Korean Peninsula or in Europe?
No, it starts from London. The British Empire. Look, if you look at what's happened in the British system recently, you see what happened, the unnecessary long Iraq War. Tony Blair did it. Tony Blair is the controller of the current president of the United States. He was the guy that put him in on behalf of the British Queen. We've been going toward hell. And wait, we have the other side of the thing is, at the same time, we are faced with threats in the solar system, with threats of comets, which come into the solar system and can kill a lot of people if they ever hit the area.
Now, you said that last year on my show, and the media made fun of you about it, but now we're seeing a record numbers of large asteroids coming in and blowing up. How did you know about that?
Well, that's my business, to know those kinds of things.
No, I understand. You. I mean, in fact, you were the guy, the presenter of the idea of a global space defense system.
No, I started that in the sense that I was on my own at a certain point in the late 1970s in Europe. And when I began to push this process, I found people who've been veterans of the OSS, who were still leading survivors of the OSS, and others who agreed with me, and we came together, and I had some dealings with the Soviet system, and also they were going to collapse, and I told them so, and they knew it. And a large number of them were willing to come over and work with us on this whole problem.
That's right, because there were two CIA directors that said you were one of the best analysts alive. Which one was it that told Reagan that he should adopt your policies? I have to pull the Washington Post back up.
There were a lot of them. There were a number of people, but there were also leading people, generally came from the OSS background. You had people who were still leading people whose background was essentially OSS.
And you were on record saying the Soviets were going to collapse before other people were. Why did they respect you so much? What were you telling them?
I just told them what the truth was, and they knew the truth, but they had to have somebody tell them that. They knew that we almost had the SDI success at the time that Reagan was leading in that charge. We almost had it, but the British put in a new stooge Soviet leader who mobilized all his British cronies, and therefore, that we were turned down on that basis. But Reagan always...
Well, the media also turned it into a weapon system instead of a missile defense, but also asteroid defense, right?
The idea was we all knew, including key people in the Soviet system and related systems, we knew that the Soviet Union was doomed. Now, rather than going out with a big flaming nonsense, can't we come to an agreement on policies, international policies, which avoid this threat of general warfare and undertake cooperation among nations to deal with our problems? And
so you were a liaison behind the scenes on what led to perestroika, but then never got to that because their people got in. Who was Gorbachev?
Gorbachev was an evil fellow. He's still around, I think. But he was not. He was the second man in this operation. But this was, if you find the peculiar thing about the Soviet system, and in Russia today, there's still that kind of problem. Most of these guys were called the Marxists. The real Marxists were British operated, like Bertrand Russell's crowd. Bertrand Russell was one of the most significant penetrators of the Soviet system you ever saw, and it continued to his death.
And he was really a eugenicist.
He was everything. He's a human being hater.
Stay there. We're going to break that down on the other side. Amazing. Intriguing.
Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins.
Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. We're here live, back weeknights, 7 o'clock Central, for InfoWars Nightly News. You can pick up the feed at InfoWarsNews.com. I want to hold him a little bit, 5 minutes to the next hour, if he can. If he's got to go, I understand. But, when he boils it all down to thermonuclear war, that's where this is going. And the Russians, the U.S., they're building more bases, more weapons, while saying nothing's going on. But if you study geopolitical developments the last 100 years, more is going on than has ever gone on. And the establishment in Europe, England, and the U.S. is behaving in their actions, not their rhetoric, like all Hades is about to break loose. And they're doing incredibly bold and criminal things, putting al-Qaeda in all over the Middle East, demonizing patriot groups in America, clearly getting ready for false flags. Lyndon LaRouche, I'll tell you what I see happening. I see him gearing up to stage terror events to blame on the American people, like Oklahoma City, to go after kind of libertarian populist, and also they're demonizing any type of progressive populist that they don't control. I see a real move towards authoritarianism by Obama with his left cover, his invasion of Africa under AFRICON. I mean, the globalists, it seems, are on the offense. Is that a form of defense, and what do they expect to get out of this, and how do we reverse them taking us on a path that you predicted will lead to thermonuclear war?
Now, this is a cult. The problem is a cult. The cult is that of the British monarchy. And if you look at the banking system, the key to this operation is you've got to go to the way the banking system was set up under Rome all the way through Britain. It is that international banking system which is the organizing center of all of these operations. The answer is, how do you influence people? You buy them. And you find that many of our, for example, senators and so forth that I know, they have been bought. That's why they do what they do. Why are we controlled? Under Jackson, for example, we were bought. The British bankers based in the New York region and in Boston set up the operation which really wrecked the United States for a long period of time. And it's always been, and it's the same thing today.
They also financed the Civil War. That's on record, but people don't know that.
Oh, sure. But the point is that's always been the case. It is British-controlled bankers. But they're not just British. What they do is they represent the legacy of the Roman Empire.
How do the Rothschilds tie in?
The Rothschilds are just instruments of this process. They were picked up as skillful people to play a role for the British monarchy.
Wow, and right now we're in the world breakdown that you predicted, and I've tried to get you to talk about it today, but you'll never talk about yourself in a past tense. But you have been screaming since the mid-'90s that they were going to create derivatives and do this, and now it's happening. How do we get out of that? Bring back Glass-Steagall? Glass-Steagall would work. If you take a measure of the United States population we have, and I study it and look at it and deal with it, there is a movement right now. You'll find that the Democratic and Republican Party are no longer cohesive forces against each other. We are about to be freed from that kind of partisanship. What you have is you find people who are classified as New Left or whatever, old Republicans and so forth. They're all different because they have nothing that they can unite about as a united policy. And therefore, you saw that in the results of the recent election. And how is that a good thing? Now we can come into the vacuum with original constitutional ideas.
That's right. We don't need a Congress which is a majority feature. We need a system of government, which is our constitutional system, which is responsive to what our needs are.
Sir, we're back in 1 minute. Give us those solutions on the other side briefly. All right, it's our final segment with Lyndon LaRouche, and I wanted to go to calls. He was happy to do that. We never did because of time constraints. LaRouchePack.com. And he's got several other really top-flight websites. You can see it there on screen if you're a TV viewer. Sir, finishing up with solutions here with you. I mean, Dick Cheney is so arrogant and a globalist agent that he wrote in the PNAC document September 20th, we should get the media to legitimize the use of race-specific bioweapons. And there wasn't even a media outcry. Our local paper wrote about it, the Austin American-Statesman. But that gives you a mindset into the exterminism cult, death cult thing. I mean, you're not just saying that. That's who they are. And it transcends party. Obama is one of their great minions. So how do you counter such pure evil with logic? I guess you go to the people?
That's precisely when the people are ready to listen to you. And what we're in a stage now is if you look at as the result for the Democratic Party, the Tea Party and so forth, as a result of the last election campaign, you see that what came out of there was not a unified, system of congressional rule under a presidency. That is gone. The Republicans could not hold themselves together about in the way they before, nor could the Democrats. The Democrats are still trying in the Senate to do that, but it's not going to work. The citizens, as we saw with the Rand Paul, the citizens are now acting on the basis of their own conscience. Not everyone, but a significant number, and the number is growing.
And as that happens, they're not going to be able to control the narrative anymore.
No, what you're going to do is you're going to go back to the Constitution, in which the state constitution, the state government, rules the state, in which the states cooperate together as states. And they're not going to cooperate on the basis of partisanship as such. They're going to cooperate on the basis of what they think the interest of the nation is from the standpoint of their state. And once we get back to that, which is our original constitutional system, we can make it. We have a situation like right now with Russia and the United States. Our leading military command is now in the meeting with Russia on cooperating against the threat.
And that's what Hagel said. He said the military's rebelling against Obama, but I see them firing all these people because they won't launch wars.
Well, it's going to go in various directions. We are not going to end up with fighting wars. Because when you start talking about fighting wars, you're talking about the use of weapon systems which do not allow you to come out alive.
That's right.
Fighting a war. So therefore, now the time has come that we're going to have to really realize the intention of our Constitution. We're going to stop trying to dictate things, trying to take power. We're going to cooperate with other nations, but as sovereign nations in their own right. We're going to cooperate. The greatest thing that threatens us today is a threat from in space, from asteroids, from comets, and so forth.
Well, that's right. We're always focusing on just the planet. What about the whole universe around us?
Mankind has reached the point that we are actually now going to establish on the interplanet system, or part of the interplanet system, which is habitable and approachable, we are going to find ourselves running a certain part of the solar system, which is going to be the solar systems where man lives. Now, we're not going to go into Mars right away to live there as human beings, but we are in the process of two things. One, Mars is now an area in which mankind is going to build up systems and begin to work with that planet as a planet to deal with some of our problems. We're going to do the same thing in other cases. So we are now in a point where we're going to defend mankind in this section of the solar system. We're going to mobilize...
Amazing. Lyndon LaRouche, amazing. Thank you for the time.
If you're listening, you know your basic freedom.
All right, we are now into hour number 3, coming up later in the hour. In studio, the inventor of the printable gun and printable magazine, really Adon Salazar, last year began to cover what this guy was doing, and since then it's been picked up all over the world and is a big story because it is a big story. We love to take things that really are important and make them important out there with the general public. Speaking of those, here's one of them up at Infowars.com right now. Chase customers see bank balance reduced to 0. Millions of Chase Bank customers are affected by an unfortunately timed glitch, which resulted in their checking and savings accounts showing a 0 balance for several hours yesterday, prompting many to take to Twitter and express panic that their money had been stolen. All of this while the Cyprian crisis in Cyprus unfolded. They're now into day number 2 of their bank holiday, being told at least 10%. Now they're saying it could be higher of their money will be taken. The British headed up banks and German banks are also talking about 15% just off the top, on top of all the other taxes from the folks there in Italy. And, of course, the average person pays over 70% taxes in France, and that's not enough. They want you to pay 75% on everything you keep after that. And then still there's not enough. And then everybody works for the government. And they live don't live too well, but that's just the way it is. And then you've got mega rich offshore who set this up, who get the lion's share of the money. And, of course, it's always the ultra rich calling for more taxes. Just because they get it siphoned off to them. They get it in derivatives being backed up It's just incredible. So here's that ABC News 7 report. Again, this is not in the national news, the Chase glitch. It was in one local ABC News affiliate, and now it's up at Infowars.com. Here's that report.
A nightmare tonight for Chase customers coast to coast. They go online to discover their checking account balances are showing zero. Efforts to correct the glitch began immediately, and Eyewitness News reporter John Hartung is live in Burbank now to tell us how things have turned out. John?
Well, Michelle, this is the second time in less than a week that Chase Bank has had some problems with their online banking, but this time it caused momentary panic for some of their customers who actually thought that someone had gotten into their accounts and swiped all of their money. Chase ATMs brought a sense of relief to many people tonight as the bank's customers were able to get cash in hand. For a couple hours, millions of customers across the country who use online and mobile banking saw their checking and savings accounts all with zero balances.
I just thought they were doing some kind of service on the accounts or something like that.
But quickly, Twitter feeds were set ablaze with comments of anger and frustration. One tweet reading, quote, "Chase got hacked, lost my 100K savings, I demand my money." Another tweet saying, quote, "Why are all my accounts wiped out? What's going on?" At Chase Support, at Chase News. The banking giant says the problem was an internal glitch. They issued a statement saying, quote, "We have a technology problem regarding customers' balance information. It has nothing to do with cyber threats. It is an internal issue. We are very sorry to our customers for the inconvenience. This began earlier this evening. It is not confined to the West Coast." By around 7:30 tonight Pacific time, the problem was fixed.
Oh.
It's a problem some Chase customers gladly didn't even know about.
If I didn't have a heart attack immediately, I'd probably call Chase. My concern would be not having that money available if I needed it that particular day. But I would feel confident that the bank or the government would step in if it was like a widespread thing.
Now, credit cards and mortgage accounts, they were not affected by tonight's glitch, which Chase Bank now says is completely fixed. They even went to Twitter tonight and said, quote, "We are back to business as usual," end quote. Live in Burbank, John Hartung, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you.
Okay, John, thank you.
And that's ABC there in Southern California. Now, again, a glitch, you could lose all your money. And they could also steal your money and call it a glitch and then say you never get it back. This is how they could run a scam or claim that hackers had done it. And, $100 trillion worldwide, all the money in the world's disappeared once they get us on a global cashless system. And don't worry, come to the government. We've got these new cards ready for you, or this chip, and we'll put the money back on there for you. But you've got to adopt this new system. That's exactly how the social engineers get you to accept a new system, is to scare you into submission. I specifically want to take some more phone calls now and open the phones up for people that want to talk about this glitch, other so-called glitches, not a glitch when they take 10% out of your bank account in Cyprus that many Europeans use to, as a banking center. This is a very, very dangerous time to be alive. And again, these are all trial balloons where they were going to take money out of all the Greeks' bank accounts in Italy last year as well. But then there was such an uproar, they didn't do it. And then they said, we never proposed that. And then now they're doing it again. And they treat you like animals. They just are conditioning you that, you're going to fight back? I wasn't trying to sneak in your house. You caught me in your back door again? Never mind, I wasn't. And then pretty soon they're throwing you out of your house. They just incrementally get more. Toll-free number to join us on the economic front. I want to get your take on this. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. There it is. CBS San Francisco. Chase Bank denies hacking in vanishing balances. See, I was saying they could claim a hack did it in the future and that your money disappeared. But don't worry, the government will take a small percentage out and fix it for you. I mean, that's just how their brains work. But now, let's throw that article back up because I hadn't seen that. They're actually talking about it being a hacker. Chase Bank experienced technical difficulties for about 2 hours last night, worrying customers in California and across the nation who logged into their accounts and saw their balances at zero or were unable to get access to them at all. A spokesman for the bank said it was strictly an internal technical issue. See? And again, money is just digits, and customers' accounts were never in danger. Your account is digits. There's less than 2%, depending on it used to be 3%. Now it's less than 2% physical cash out there. And it's not just that it could glitch and it could disappear. They could steal it from you. They could just take it from you, as is happening in Cyprus, and they're now proposing in other countries. And you're like, well, that'll destroy confidence. They want runs. They want confidence destroyed. That'll just make them more powerful to consolidate control. It's like government. You always read about most of identity theft is government releasing millions of Social Security numbers or letting mainly illegal aliens use them and rip you off. And then they say, oh, well, the answer is more identity control, which then tracks everything you do. I mean, it's amazing. They get more power out of the crisis. Ken in New Jersey, what's your take on this?
Definitely attest the fact that they did that thing with Chase. And if you notice, the guy in the clip said he had faith that the government would step in case it was something serious.
You know, it's funny you said that. That guy looks exactly like an actor, and the way he does it and everything he does. When I played that clip just now, I was looking at it thinking the same thing, or the point is that I've seen that guy somewhere. That guy is an actor I've seen on TV and movies, and I didn't want to say anything because I wanted to try to go find it with you, because Google's got face recognition picture searches that work pretty good on faces. And I was going to tell my guys quietly and actually break it once it happened. I believe that guy's an actor. In fact, I believe that guy, or someone that looks just like him, is a Kat Sunstein cognitive infiltrator that actually attacks me online that I've seen. I'm sorry, just amazing what you just hit me with. I agree with you. Go ahead.
Yes, and my biggest worry, Alex, is that there would be enough sheep to go along with it in case that ever did happen. People would be lining up for this stupid car that they'd be issuing once the government promises to reinstate.
Listen, they had actors on the ground on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox going, oh, it fell on its own weight in a pancake caused by the jet fuel weakening the steel. And then on every channel, guys sitting there sounding almost identical. And if I'm wrong, if he isn't an actor that I haven't seen doing political stuff, I'm wrong. But I mean, I'm telling you, it is his twin brother then. In fact, let's take down the special report. See if it has a name up there. Nope, no name. No. Kyle Ellis. I mean, maybe he's a real guy. Maybe I'm wrong. The point is that he looks just like an actor I've seen. And so maybe he's got a twin brother that's an actor. The point is it does... They can also get like 40 people there and ask them a question and get the one response they want to hear. But, I mean, you know there were a bunch of mad people out there. Twitter's like 99% angry, but then that's what they choose to show. But on Building 7, they'd have actors going, yes, it fell from, damage from the other building into its own footprint before it even fell on 3 different channels as well. So, I mean, again, I've seen this before, but maybe we're wrong. Now, you're not saying he looks like an actor. I think you're saying it just sounds like they picked somebody, or what are you saying?
Well, I do agree with you. I am definitely saying that even if he wasn't an actor, they purposely chose to show someone with that kind of reaction to promote the idea that in case this ever did happen, there would be someone who was on board for the government solution to it.
Very well said. Do we have that queued up? Yeah, let's go ahead and play it.
That particular day. But I would feel confident that the bank or the government would step in if it was like a widespread thing. Now, credit card.
We're going to come back from break and play that again because we missed the first of it. But again, ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing more and more like PR people. It's like that cab driver show. What's the cab driver show where he goes out and asks them questions? Cash Cab. And I don't watch a lot of TV, but I was on vacation a few weeks ago. And so I was looking for something the kids could watch. And I said, okay, this looks good. And I immediately could tell it was actors. And I went, and sure enough, everybody else could tell that. And they have actors show up to an open screening. Now, they don't tell them what it's going to be. And so it is real questions. So it is a real game. But the pool is from actors to make sure they can only, shoot once and get well-spoken people. But they don't tell you that on the show. So, again, I could instantly look at that, and I said, watch this, kids. I got on my iPad, pulled it up, and said, yep, actors. It was admitted that there'd been controversy. It was actors. And it's the same thing. Now, I may be wrong. My first gut reaction was, that's an actor. But then there's the extreme of that where everybody says, I'm an actor and I'm Bill Hicks, which isn't true. Don't look into it. It's not true. I'm I'm not Bill Hicks. I'm not Sean Connery either. Oh, wait. And I'm not, who's the Three's Company guy? They think I'm him. Ritter. I'm not Ritter.
You prepare by purchasing gold, food, and firearms. But
yeah, the globalists have done a bad thing. You know, I think if that guy is an actor, or looks like an actor, I know, in the Chase ABC, and it is California. We know they've used actors before. If it is, and it's involved with Chase, this could all be a psyop to test and see what we'll do if our money disappears out of our bank accounts. And notice this happened, why the whole Cyprus thing is going on. This is very, very suspicious. But hey, we'd call the guy and get him on. I know with the Batman deal, a bunch of the people were actors. See, the media is like, why are there theories that Sandy Hook is actors? Well, because Don Salazar himself found instances of movie actors being victims and then talking about how they survived, who just so happened to be in the Aurora shooting, supposedly. And it was at least 2 moderate TV/movie actors, both of them black, by the way. And I said, don't even do the news report. It's just too far out for people. Now, then everybody goes to the extreme of saying everybody's an actor. And again, when the government lies so much, people lose confidence in everything and don't believe anything. And then, like, schizophrenics are the new philosophers and just believe everything's a conspiracy when it's not. Because I can assure you, I'm not Bill Hicks. I'm not Ritter. They'll do these face things where they go, look, it's 100% face match. And all they are using is some paint program to say it's their face match. I mean, just amazing. But what do you expect? You're going to have that end of things when the government is saying there's no drones or no bullets being bought. By the way, in the next segment, in studio, the maker of the printable gun, the lower receiver, the clips, all of it. They forgot to bring the clips in, so they're coming in right now. And I'm going to ask them, could they come out with a printable Barrett? Now, it's kind of embarrassing. That barrel's dirty. It's time for me to clean this rifle. We were shooting it a few weeks ago, and I haven't even cleaned it. I normally do. That's how busy we've been. Can we cut to the wide shot here with the Barrett? You can just use that camera right there if you want, or that camera over there. Yeah, there you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There is, that's Marilyn, and the other rifle's Betty Page. You can call them whatever you want. We got like 3 new shooting shows we're going to put out soon. But speak of the devil, man, I was late at night when we got back. I didn't clean that thing. What a crime. Look at that carbon scoring there. Looks like you guys seen a lot of action. What with the rebellion and all? You know the rebellion? Anyways, total Star Wars nerddom now. Look at this. And there's the videos. We're going to show you some of these for TV viewers when we come back with our guests where they fire with the lower receiver and the clip through this. And that's the beginning of very, very big things and has really scared the system. And I got to, again, I give Don Salazar kudos. He was one of the first to really report on this and help get the dinosaur media onto it. Now it's a big story. And the ATF went and wanted the printer back that he had from the manufacturer he rented it from, and just, you know, all this classic garbage. We talk about an equalizing force against the tyrants. Let's go ahead and talk to Paul in New Jersey. Another caller from New Jersey. You're on the air. Welcome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here, but you're talking about that. We've been taken over a long time ago. And, the Federal Reserve, and then he moved on in 1935 to set up the U.S. corporation after the bankruptcy. And they want this manipulate with when you get everybody on electronically, and they can wipe you out if you say anything.
No, that's it. Once you're electronic, they can take $5 out of the transactions like Bank of America, track everything, control you. And now they're moving to ban cash all over the world. They got billboards up that cash is dirty and can't use it in secondhand transactions in New Orleans or in Louisiana. And, garage sales are illegal all over the country in many areas. You're absolutely right, Paul.
Right. It's amazing what they're doing. They want Social Security to go on debit cards now. They're going to send you a debit card.
Well, pretty soon people won't even know how to get a check and go deposit it. And then soon it'll be, you have no money in the account. You're like, I have my printout. I had $1,000. No, that's a conspiracy theory. Officers, remove him. And you're like, I have the printout. Shut up. Pretty soon, if you say the sun comes up, you're a conspiracy theorist. It has to be said by mainstream television or it doesn't exist. God bless you. Here's that clip again of the guy going, I trust the government. I'm totally glad that they're there operating and will take care of me. Here's that clip.
A nightmare tonight for Chase customers coast to coast. They go online to discover their checking account balances are showing zero. Efforts to correct the glitch began immediately, and Eyewitness News reporter John Hartung is live in Burbank now to tell us how things have turned out. John?
Well, Michelle, this is the second time in less than a week that Chase Bank has had some problems with their online banking, but this time it caused momentary panic for some of their customers who actually thought that someone had gotten into their accounts and swiped all of their money.
All right, again, folks.
Chase ATMs brought a sense of relief.
Again, I wanted you to hear the first of the clip. When we come back, I'll play the part with the local citizen who looks just like an actor I've seen, telling us how great it all is and how much he totally trusts Chase and the government to save us. And then we'll have our guest here in studio, straight ahead, Infowars.com, Prisonplanet.com.
We're on the march. The Empire's on the run.
All right, folks. Again, Chase customers see bank balance reduced to zero. Then you get this bizarre ABC Los Angeles report where they just say, don't worry, the government would take care of it if there was a problem. Just like New Orleans, just like Katrina, just like Sandy, the hurricane, just like all of this stuff. All they'll do is use it as an excuse to take your property. And I believe more and more, with this coinciding with the money being taken out in Europe, that they're doing this on purpose. And I find the whole thing very, very suspicious. Chase is at the very top of the banking pyramid in the New World Order. And again, here's the local resident in California saying how much he trusts the government. Here it is.
Chase, my concern would be not having that money available.
Recently.
We had a little computer glitch there. We're having a problem with the computer in there today. It's funny. Once a clip starts messing up, you're never going to get it. Guys, what do you make here? Daniel Bazell, the co-director with Cody R. Wilson of Defense Distributed, that's come out with the printable firearms that's become such a big news story the last few months.
What do you make of the deposit situation?
Yeah, and what's happening in Europe.
The Cypriot situation is so good, right? Because these are supposed to be guaranteed deposits by banks, right? Guaranteed you'll fucking lose them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we can't. This is actually on AM and FM stations. Yeah, we can't cuss in here.
Okay, well, one mistake, right? We'll make it again.
But one more, we got to get you out of here because it's FCC stuff, and we're under that.
You bet. I understand.
We're trying to defeat that, though.
Yeah, so the whole idea is that, so these institutions will totally control. You've lost all faith in institutional banking at this point, and this was supposed to be some guarantee of the credibility of banking institutions. And they did a stress test 18 months ago, and these banks were supposed to come back great, super great, and 10%. And I think they're going to make some concessions and not take some people's money under 100,000. But I mean, this is a guarantee of what the strategy is going to be going forward. You're going to lose your deposits in traditional banks.
And I guess they're just going to do it over and over again with small ones till everybody says it's no big deal and you're bad if you don't want them to take all your money.
Well, I'm seeing...
Or they'll take it and say they didn't, even though they do. Maybe it'll be an arrestable offense to say they took your money.
Well, do you see how the Troika and the president of Cyprus are doing this? They don't actually have the will in their own Congress to pass this in Cyprus. So the bureaucrats are simply going to have to come in at some point and say, well, we'll take all the foreigners' deposits. Or it's going to get so ridiculous, and it's going to edge up from 15 to 20 to 30% of billionaires' money, and it's going to be this populist play on, well, we're going to take their money. We're never going to take your money. The play's not over. It's going to get more ridiculous before this is settled.
What is the best website for people to visit, Defense Distributed, to see all the videos and info you guys have?
Oh, man, the very best website is still defensedistributed.com. That's where all of our videos and our FAQs are and everything. But the place most people go is defcad.org because it has all of our files. You can download all the gun parts there.
So you've publicly done this. And again, you guys really are trailblazers in what you're doing. And here we are with the archaic FCC system. I apologize that you can't use the language you want to. They'll just fine our stations if it start. No. It's insane how it works. I'd like to see an end to that tyranny. But expanding on this, break down the history, both of you. Break down the history here of how this started and now why it's so important and why it sent shockwaves through the system, Cody.
You mean of the printable gun idea? And it's
the printable gun idea and the ATF getting involved and everything that's happening.
Yeah. What this is going to be, and is right now a symbol of the reversibility of institutional control of property, specifically dangerous property, right, like the firearm. And we know that there's been a multi-generational effort, especially in the 20th century, to take the battle rifle out of the hands of Americans, right? The battle rifle is the birthright of patriotic Americans out of their hands. This is a sign of the reversibility of that entire program.
And we'll show people a document cam shot of that rifle right there who are watching on TV.
Now, we're not going to be able to print, especially in these materials, an entire AR-15, but since we just got our FFL, our license to manufacture from the government, we are legally going to be able to make a printable handgun.
Here you go. If you guys just cut to my camera, I can show people what it looks like right there. I think our TriCaster is having a heart attack or something today.
That lower receiver that you see in white, this is not an SLA printed piece, and the distinction is important. This is actually a very cheaply made FDM printed piece. This is a kind of piece you could make yourself with an Ultimaker or a MakerBot, machines that are less than $5,000, sometimes less than $2,000. And the piece itself costs less than $20, and that's an expensive way to make that piece. Some of these pieces could be made for $15.
And you have the videos on defcad.org. Well, that's where the files are, but on your other site, you have the videos. We played clips of them here and on the Nightly News where you're firing bullets through these. I mean, these are really working well, and this is just in its beginning stages, and you're just an individual with a few other people.
That's the power, right? I'm just one guy in his garage, you know, and there's some people helping me. Sure, we've had some money, but you don't need to spend the money and spend all the time that we did to do something like this. It's very simple to do.
Now, you've got some new magazines or clips here.
Mm-hmm. The blue one is the one I want you to take a look at. That was printed in FDM for less than $15. It's a very simple, and it's like the same material Lego is made out of. It's made out of one of these extruder printers. You can feel it. It almost feels, well, it probably feels flimsy to you, but it works in an AR just fine. I fired hundreds of rounds out of that magazine. It's starting to show some wear because of how many times I've thrown it around and stuff. So cheap to make, so easy to make. You can download the file today. And just like some of these magazines are maybe still like 60, 70 bucks online, you can make that in your home for 15 bucks.
Amazing. Now, go over the history of this because, I mean, the media has been saying this is dangerous, this is revolutionary. I mean, the idea is really threatening the establishment. How many newspapers and TV reports have you guys now been in?
It's countless. I mean, it's totally countless. There's no way for me to even... It's been ridiculous since October at least, and we got started in earnest in August. But now they're really upset because we've got this license, so we have carte blanche basically to make whatever we want. For the longest, we had to do just parts that any individual could legally make, so receivers, magazines, these things. Now we can make handguns, short-barreled rifles, automatics. We can do all kinds of things.
Explain the license.
Yeah, so we applied for a federal firearms license to manufacture firearms. Manufacture is different from making. So there's a category, there's whole categories of weapons you can't make as a private individual unless you have license. And this is right. We don't believe in license as an idea, but we wanted to do this and do it in America, do it in the United States. One, just for the propaganda of saying, look, I had an idea, I could have done it in a month, but because of the licensing regime and the laws, it took me $40,000 in 8 months. This serves its own value. So we get a license to do it in America.
Well, I just really appreciate you guys. Tell the listeners how this idea began, who's involved. And I know we were only set up for one interview, but I'm glad that your co-director came in as well. Maybe he should say some words, hand him that microphone.
Yeah, if he'd like to. I mean, well, he wouldn't like to.
I didn't know I was even going to be on there.
Okay, well, it's good to have you here. But well, who started the idea for this? How many guys are you? What's the game plan?
Defense Distributed's directorship is only three individuals, and it began mostly as 3 individuals. We thought, well, how interesting would it be not just to 3D print a gun, but to open source it and then allow anyone in the world to 3D print a gun, regardless of whatever their laws had to say. Perhaps that would be a socially significant project, a politically significant project. And so it began, the questions really began, how do we take this from theory into reality? And we did the dirty work, right, of just getting down, getting some books, getting access to 3D printers, and just trying to make things. And the biggest, go ahead.
No. I was thinking now this really works great. Please continue.
Well, in AR, sure, we've demonstrated that the pieces work just fine. But in fact, that wasn't really a surprise. You can buy commercial versions of polymer pieces like these already. We were just trying to show, especially post Sandy Hook, there's no meaningful way of regulating components of an AR-15 anymore unless you build a massive superstructure. And I'm sure there's idiot politicians who are willing to do that. But money doesn't grow on trees in the U.S. anymore. You know what I mean? We're in a massive deficit situation. So it's really a pipe dream to think you can really regulate this rifle anymore. That serves that function. But now that we have a license, we can do what we originally wanted to do, which is develop something like a single-shot, completely printable plastic gun. Yes, it's undetectable, but more importantly, it's unobservable. by institutions and countries and sovereigns. You can download it from the internet, print it on your home in the comfort of your own, you know what I mean? The privacy of your own home. And this might be a politically important object.
Well, no kidding. You can send your operatives into a country if you were a government. They can print their weapons in country in some place like North Korea and then go take out somebody that way. I mean, to use kind of a James Bond angle, but how much would it cost to get the printer if you have the know-how? Well, you have the plans online, and in the future, ballpark, you know, if you have the printer and if you got the plans off defcad.org, how much to print the entire AR-15?
No, that's outside of our technological capability. The AR is such a high-powered rifle platform that the materials, at least we're working with right now, can't withstand the pressures of a high-caliber rifle round like that. But we have proof that you can make handgun concepts. Now, maybe not multiple rounds, maybe like 5 or 6, maybe 10. But so we're coming to that. We're not there yet. So I can't answer that question. But right now in the materials we have, we were trying to see what guns can you make and what we have right now, if that makes sense.
No, it's I mean, amazing is the word. And again, this is just, I mean, what is your engineering skill? How did you guys put this together?
Oh, the learning curve was steep for me. I have a liberal arts background, man. So I just like learned how to do this on the fly. And now I could say I'm pretty good with putting guns together and talking about chamber pressures and tensile strengths and things.
And I think that's what scares the system. Who are your political heroes? I mean, what woke you up?
Well, I like Camus, man. I like Michel Foucault. I like the French social theorists, people that aren't typically named by Americans, I guess. But I like people who just try to radicalize students and conservatives and say, you know what, things are about liberty. They're not about politics. It's not about Democrat.
I agree.
Republican. It's about liberty. And
it's about, are you for freedom or are you not?
Yes. Are you going to resist?
They want to make it left and right to confuse it and muddle it.
Precisely. So I'm an anarchist, and the anarchist tradition is something I read a lot about lately. So you could say anarchism is the school that I subscribe to, but I believe that that's a very rich school and a neglected school, especially post-Marxist experience. There's a lot of cool things happening in the world and on the internet right now, which are going to make Marxism not irrelevant, but anarchism very relevant.
Well, I mean, as you know, Marx and others actually talked about total manufacturing, you know, private factories and how that would empower everybody. But the globalists have actually used it as a way to control the means of production with the cheap production, but then have us sell our souls for baubles. And so they've kind of reversed that whole paradigm.
This is the problem with progressivism, which tries to identify itself as leftist, and I don't think it is, because all they love is monopoly capitalism. They say, well, we're about equality, but let's control it with corporations and the government. You know, it's ridiculous to me. So I think in many meaningful ways, I'm a real leftist, and these progressives aren't, and these liberals aren't. They're all, neither party in America challenges.
Well, a liberal would want the individual to be totally empowered. Instead, these people are the opposite. They're more like Borg or space aliens.
Right. They believe I can empower you the best by empowering you at the end of a barrel of some institutional gun. You know, you're going to be equal or else. You know.
But then they don't. All they create is division. Well, right. Turn on MSNBC.
Yeah, it's lazy moralisms disguised as meaningful politics.
Exactly. They claim they're all these nice things when they're monsters.
Yeah, and they believe, well, the most efficient way we can get things done is to centralize power and force you to do things, because it's just socialism from above. You know.
Well, I don't want to just sit here and throw questions out at you. What do you want to impart to the viewers and listeners? Cody R. Wilson of Defense Distributed is in here with us, and he lives here in Austin, Texas. And, you know, we've been reporting on this since last year. Adon Salazar was, hey, this guy can print a gun. This is interesting. It hardly gotten any press. I'm not bragging that we kind of pushed it out there, but I'm glad that this idea, you know, has broken out there. And I wonder what other cool stuff's going on in the printable revolution we don't know about.
Well, I want to tell you about, and your listeners, about defcad.com. We're trying to raise money for defcad.com as a search engine, an open source search engine for basically anything. We see that the resistance going forward is going to be about access to objects, period. Just like how music became software, objects are now becoming software. And there's going to be interested parties and institutions that don't want you to be able to have access to things. We think, especially for the success of liberty going forward, you're going to have to be able to find something on the internet and be able to print it. And our site will be the first. We're the only site with gun files. We're the only site with medical device files. We think you should be able to have direct access to things.
This is total revolution. And just like, quote, illegal downloading, it's so ubiquitous, they can't stop it. Isn't the secret to this is to make it totally ubiquitous and get so many steps ahead of them that they never catch back up?
The secret is to get it into the internet in such a way that you can find it anywhere and it can never be stopped. And that's what's happened, especially with the gun parts. And so we know as soon as we have a printable firearm, and look for that in about a month, right, it will be on the internet forever. And this is why the internet is an anarchy, and it's the most successful global anarchy in history. This is why we think these concepts are important. No one can take those things from you. They're online forever.
Well, very well said. And I'm just extremely excited about everything that you guys are up to and what you're doing. Again, the pushback, I mean, at first, what was it, last year we reported when the ATF put pressure on the company you rented the printer from to make them take it back, but that didn't stop you.
You know, I think it happened in reverse. The company first decided they didn't want to participate and then tipped off the ATF about it. These industry people work hand in hand with the government. That's our problem. They're collusive. They believe that they're a political class and should keep the means of production out of your hands.
I've noticed that people at the lowest level of groveling, it's a religion to hammer their fellow humans and things, and they get off on it. It's like a reflected glory. The state is them. It's like some giant exoskeleton they're putting on.
Yeah, there's this...
But it's not.
Well, I mean, it's this collective fiction, you're right, but there's also this noblesse oblige. Well, we have the money and we have the factories and we should keep this out of the hands of the hoi polloi, you know, and well, they might do something dangerous and hurt themselves. And I hate this attitude, and I think it's something we have to increasingly, disintegrate going forward. So defcad.com is one of the things we're going to do, to build up a place in software on the internet where you're always going to be able to find access to things. Increasingly, if you want to, you'll be able to make it, and no one's going to have anything to say about it.
And again, people can just donate, or can they invest?
No, they can invest. We don't have an equity structure right now, but we're trying to get off the ground. Version 1, we're just trying to get off the ground.
Well, I mean, this is investing in just pure original research and breaking paradigms. I mean, I agree with a lot of the analysts out there that have said, in fact, I've seen some of the articles where they say you're one of the most dangerous people out there alive.
Yeah, one of the most polarizing figures in technology. This is from people who, of course I'm dangerous, to their worldview, right?
Oh, no. Hey, welcome to the club. Yeah. Southern Poverty Law Center says I'm incredibly dangerous. Right. I mean, they say I'm a terrorist leader.
That's a distinction. Right?
I'm a terrorist? I mean,
you should be honored.
I guess I terrorize tyrants.
Well, exactly. Who do you terrorize? Who is terrorized? Dangerous to what? Dangerous to whom? And I think we said this before last time we were together. Fine, of course I'm dangerous to that old way of thinking.
Yeah, like, I don't need, really to use cuss words to describe things, but sometimes, but I mean, I'm not being insulting, but sometimes you do need it as a verbal flourish, to really describe something, but so what? We should be able to speak like we want. I mean, I love that line out of Apocalypse Now where he says, we drop napalm death on villages of children, but then we court-martial the pilots if they write, the F word on their airplane. It's like, you're going to burn up kids with napalm. That's okay, but don't say the F word. I mean, see how they morally quantitate things?
Well, it's us versus them, right? And it's here versus there. So Dianne Feinstein can get in front of Ted Cruz and say, well, I've seen the bodies, Senator. I've seen the body. Well, have you seen the bodies, Senator Feinstein, of the people you've droned, right? The many children that your foreign policy leads to, that burn to a crisp from Hellfire missiles in many, countries all over the world? No.
That she's killed.
By a direct response. Right?
Yeah, she's on the committees.
Of course, she has a hand in their deaths. Right, but she can't.
She sends robot Skynet to kill whole villages.
No question.
And she's going to tell us about we're collectively guilty for kids that we didn't kill.
Our liberty is the problem.
We have no connection to those dead kids, not 1/1 of any guilt. But then she has culpable guilt in death list, and she's telling us about murderers.
That's a fact, and the disconnect couldn't be greater. Right? She can't see it. I really believe she can't put it together.
I think she licks her chops over it.
Maybe she does. It just seems to me a massive dissonance,
Well, most of them can't see it. You're right. But Dianne Feinstein, if there's a witch that turns green at night and flies around on the broom with black smoke coming out the back, it's her.
You know what? I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Hey, this is amazing. Stay there. We'll be right back on the other side. The printable 3D gun revolution. Well, if you go to defcad.org, you can download their printable lowers for an M4 and different designs for the magazines, clips, depending on what name you want to use. There's a big debate over whether you should call them magazine or clips. The point is you put cartridges in them that have little explosive powder in them that fires a projectile down the barrel. Now, look at this 50 caliber Barrett. Is that not a beautiful thing? Cody, could you someday see us, having a Barrett like this printable? Could the Barrett company come out with a printable design?
There's no question it can be printed. The question is what's the material and what's the cost? And so I don't know how economical it will be, but I'll tell you, I do have one of these magazines sitting around in my apartment that we're going to try to print just to see if we can do it.
Do you have a Barrett?
No, I don't have one. I couldn't afford something.
Hey, would you like to go out with us shooting?
Of course, yeah. Or would you like to come with me?
Let's go.
I'm out every weekend, man. So yeah, let's do it.
We've got a great place to go shooting. Really? 12,000 acres.
No kidding.
Yeah, but to shoot these babies, we got to have that.
I want to go, yeah.
All right, you hear that, Shane Steiner listening? We're ready to take the printable.
Take me out, man.
No, man, you were saying during the break, I feel like I'm not connecting well with your audience. You always feel like that when you're on air, but you're doing I do personally. You guys are doing a killer job.
I appreciate that, man. People email me all the time. They say, well, what can we do to help? What can we do? And it's not just donations. No. We're launching a service right now called defcad.com. You can go there and see what we're planning, what we're going to launch. It'll be live in like 20 days, and we think it's going to be the first important search engine for 3D printing. And maybe that's not interesting right now. A lot of people don't 3D.
Hey, I love that. The island of misfit objects.
We named it that because all the other 3D printing repositories out there, the people that are supposed to be committed to openness and access, take down the gun files. It's not illegal to make a gun in this country. It's not illegal at all. It's illegal to possess drug paraphernalia, but that stuff's on their databases, right? There's like this social problem with gun parts, and we're...
Well, no. What did the Attorney General say? He said, we need to make it like porn you put in a black bag. We need to demonize it so it's not seen as socially okay. Well, what about government having all the weapons? Mm-hmm. I mean, I see that as socially wrong.
I'm completely with you. This is not a gun project so much as it is an equality project, right? We're saying you should have access to the firearm, right? Why shouldn't you? And so many people are, I think Eric Cole used the word brainwash back in the 90s.
Yeah, he said, let's brainwash people.
So many people are brainwashed, especially the people in the UK and Australia, right? They're like, well, I don't want this. This is disgusting. Well, fine. But why shouldn't you have the freedom to possess it?
Well, why are they demonizing cash and gold and silver? How many times has somebody been arrested for using cash or showing people silver coins? Right. I had a friend down at UT arrested because they thought a silver coin was illegal.
Arrested?
Yeah, this is about 10 years ago. Chris Athanas was down there showing people silver coins, talking up silver. Man. And the police came and arrested him. It was in the news.
I hope he went to court over it, got a false arrest.
Well, listen, he was on the edge of UT property, had a concealed carry, wasn't on it. They still successfully charged him. They came because people reported him for silver, thinking it was illegal. Listen, I've had silver coins out and had people ask me at the park, is that legal?
What?
No, it's a religion of slavery. Yeah. What do you call that, where you love groveling and you love evil?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
A jellyfishism?
Well, it's a masochism, right? It's like, oh, no, I deserve to be under this boot, This is where I belong.
Oh, yeah, they've got all these movies where it's sexy to be tortured and, 50 Shades of Grey.
There's something to
sexy to be massaged on my shoulders. I don't want any pain here.
There is a socio-political connection there between, I think I'm with you. These people, I think, love getting rid of the pain of being human beings. They don't want to have to deal with their...
Well, they just associate the state as power, and they believe by worshiping it, they have gained Valhalla.
Secular religion, right? Of course. I mean, why did Leninism take religious institutions as one of its primary enemies? Yeah? There can be no competition.
It was a competition.
There can be no competition from other states. Yeah.
No, that's it. The state is God, is the New World Order. Gentlemen, stay there. I want to hear more about defcad.com coming soon to the InfoWar. Now, you recently traveled to Europe, Cody R. Wilson, one of the creators of the Defense Distributed Printable Gun Revolution, which we know they got big companies already doing this, but it's all been kept really quiet. You're distributing it. You're getting it down to the grassroots. You wanted to talk about Bitcoin, though.
Did, especially after this Cyprus experience, and we have this anxiety about Chase Bank taking deposits, and of course we all know they're going to nationalize our 401ks eventually, and they're going to have periphery capital controls, and you won't be able to trade the stock exchange, and they'll do bank holidays. This is all coming because the budget's wrecked, But there are already politically impervious currencies that you can use. One of them is called Bitcoin. And it's not just e-gold, and it's not just baseball cards, all right? It is a pure currency in the Austrian sense. You can buy into it today through services like Coinbase.org or Coinbase.com or Mt. Gox, or there's global exchanges all over. Just Google Bitcoin. You can put your dollars into it. One Bitcoin is already worth over $50 US. In August, they were worth 13. The values of these Bitcoin increased dramatically.
Now, you just recently traveled to Austria to discuss some money issues.
Yeah.
That's secret?
I did. No, it's not so secret. No, I toured a bunch of hacker spaces and gave some presentations to Bitcoin people and met some Bitcoin developers. There's a lot of crossover between the Defense Distributed Project and Bitcoin.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Well, how would you describe them? Kind of libertarian anarchist?
Yeah, I think they mean the same things, which is that, you know, the important technologies like currencies and implements of liberation like firearms should be distributed and should be software.
This really is the ultimate revolution, because they're going to try to do this with cybernetic technology and use it as backdoors to control us. Everything is going to be hacked. They think they're going to hack us. We're going to hack them.
Yeah, the front end is them hacking us with like Google Glass, for example. The back end is us hacking them completely with something like Bitcoin. When you crypto anarchize, if I can use that as a verb, when you take currency away from them, what do they have? You know, what does the military-industrial complex, what do they have when you're no longer holding their dollars? You know, you're no longer trading in their currencies. I don't have to buy oil in the market like they do. I can trade Bitcoin. I can send it instantly to anyone, anywhere in the world. There aren't institutional controls. There aren't verification checks. No one can see it because it's behind crypto. The revolution is right now.
You were telling me about friends in San Francisco that are about to launch something big.
Oh, no, they've already launched it. It's called Coinbase. It's one of the fastest growing and most popular Bitcoin exchanges.
Sure, but you're saying it's about to go to this new level.
Oh, they're about to get a bunch of funding. Yeah, they've proven that their business model works. You can go on there right now. You can sell 100 Bitcoin a day. You can buy 10 Bitcoin a day. You can do it easy. And they can link it up to your bank accounts and everything. So it's just one of the easiest ways to buy and sell Bitcoin and one of the most accessible.
Is Peter Thiel involved anywhere in this?
Well, I don't know if he is publicly or not. I can't speak to that. But I know that people that think like him, people with that founders fund mentality and the idea that like libertarian corporations are the future, are looking at companies like Coinbase and that they want to fund them.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like Rand Paul just won the CPAC deal and now the neocons love him. I think they're trying to adopt it to take it over.
Well, you mean Bitcoin itself?
Well, I mean, Peter Thiel.
Oh, well, yeah. So there's this adoption in these things. But look, you're getting into a technology where it doesn't matter who likes it and who doesn't. It works. And it doesn't have politics in that sense. I don't have to convert you into some kind of crazy anarchist to get you to admit that one Bitcoin is worth $50 US. You know, it's just economics, man. It's like,
well, you know, anarchy of ideas and the true withering away of the state. I mean, that's where they say Marx created this total state, but he was talking about actually the end of the state. But then it's just walking around in circles. But something like this is what really could do that.
Yeah, to write it the easiest way, Marx imagined the end of the state through state mechanisms, right? And anarchists say, no, you just build up this freedom and these spheres of freedom inside the shell of the old order, and one day you look around and you realize, oh, it was just a shell, you know? It could never get at what we were doing.
You dissolve the shell.
Precisely, and that's got to be true about something like Bitcoin. I mean, once the commercial transactions for our day-to-day things are mostly handled by us and peer-to-peer and over the internet and on our computers, I'm not going to be going to Chase Bank to make a deposit.
Let's talk more about that on the other side and see if we can get Daniel to talk to us. You want to go on air? How'd you get involved in all this?
You want to
I don't know.
All right, stay there. We're going to come back. You guys want to keep doing some more?
If it's up to you, man.
Well, let's do it. Let's come right back and talk more about DefCAD. Hello, well, chances are in the last 3 or 4 months, you've seen him on every major news channel in the country and overseas, defcad.org, Cody R. Wilson, right here in Austin, Texas. And again, Infowars.com was one of the first media outlets to start paying attention to it because we realized it was important that if individuals, not just big companies, could print the magazines, the clips, the lower receivers, that larger companies and then finally smaller companies and then individuals could print entire firearms. And across the board, this is beginning to happen. And there's a lot of, you know, high-end defense companies that are doing this. But in the future, you'll have composite materials that individuals can get that'll actually be able to handle the pressures of the actual firearm. Break down some more of the science, Cody, and other points that are important for people to be aware of.
When it comes to printing a gun?
Yes.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is we're moving into barrels right now. So we're trying to see, like, okay, can you make a plastic barrel? And the conventional wisdom is, no, of course you can't. But we're seeing that you can. The only problem is the plastic expands quite a bit, and it's brittle. You know?
I don't want to be around while you're testing this.
Yeah, well, it's okay. So we have remote fire mechanisms, so we don't just hold it in our hand. And,
no, I know. I'm joking.
Yeah. So right, we've explosions happen, but at the same time, there are some, and I don't want to reveal too much, right? But we have found some ways of making printable guns work. And they're going to work, and we're going to...
Yeah, we haven't shown any of those videos yet. If people go to Defense Distributed, the official website, those videos are up there. We can show viewers, where you're there shooting hundreds and hundreds of rounds out of here.
Okay, so on those videos, those are proving that certain components work. So these aren't...
That the magazine, the clip works.
Exactly, like the clip works, and then lower receivers work, and one of the videos that's blown up a lot lately. But these aren't whole printed guns, which is something we want to do and haven't really done for public consumption yet. I'm just kind of telling you it's about to happen.
Sure. Shifting gears just into the overall why this threatens the establishment. For people that don't understand why this is revolutionary, why is the system so threatened? I mean, put it in layman's terms.
Man, I hope that it is threatened. And maybe it's naive for me to think that it is. But this is a symbol that you can make something important for yourself, something they don't want you to have. And especially after Sandy Hook, in a moment, they really don't want you to have it. That's important that people can say, oh wow, real politics is I can do whatever I want, regardless of what the state blares at me through the TV and on the radio all the time. It's just teaching contempt for the legislative process.
Well, look at how the Congress exempts themselves from insider trading. Mm-hmm. Look at how the banksters exempt themselves. I mean, this cannot go on forever, and no amount of state force is going to protect them.
Yeah, all the state understands, I think, is force. And what can you do when you just disappear with holding something like Bitcoin? You simply just choose not to pick up a dollar from the ATM. The velocity of their money decreases. What can they do? They can't tax you into commerce. Oh, that's right. Yes, they can. Obamacare. So it'll be more programs like that.
And that's why they want to go back to an old dark age, and they romanticize a post-industrial world for us while they're in the high-tech reservations, is because that's the only way they stay in power, is stopping progress.
Everything at this point seems to be about maintenance and centralization of power going forward. Not even an elite necessarily, just the idea is that there need to be different classes of people.
Absolutely. And guys, if you punch up my computer for TV viewers, I can show them some of the videos that Defense Distributed.
Oh, don't show them that one.
Why?
Well, that's just me talking about DefCAD, so it's not a gun video.
No, but sure, let's go over this together. You've got media here. Is that probably where we should go? We'll go to the video area.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Just go to YouTube and check out our videos.
Sure, I'm just showing folks out there that are watching us on TV.
Of course.
There you are in Glenn Beck. And
that's a pretty good one, where we shoot the AR Mag Part 2. I think that's where I said, how's that national conversation going? It was an important time to ask that question, by the way.
So again, folks, you can just go to Defense Distributed's YouTube channel and see all these. But there's the MAG 223.
I think that was right when New York was passing its law, arbitrarily banning magazines that could hold over 7 rounds. And, Feinstein wanted them on the block, too. And we were saying, look, it doesn't matter what you have to say about it. We can have this pantomime conversation. But look, one guy on a 3D printer just gave this to the internet.
And is that one you printed right there?
Yes, this piece is much like this one. So this is an FDM printed piece. The dimensions are somewhat different on this one. It's a late model.
And that's a drum.
Yeah, it's a drum mag. Yeah, we didn't print that one. But the receiver, the point was to show the receiver holds up to fire indefinitely. So it's not going to break from firing stresses or recoil or anything like that. This is a receiver that you can print out inexpensively that'll substitute a commercial receiver.
Well, it's all very, very exciting. What about this? Defense Distributed AR Lower Christmas review.
Oh, that was one of the first times we got our lowers to do more than 30, 40 rounds. So the media circus left us in December. They were like, well, yeah, you can print gun parts, but they break quickly. No, we had very quickly turned around.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like people that say the government's going to combat robots, but they fall over easily. Yeah, they're going to develop, it's like when they were training Boy Scouts 4 years ago to confiscate guns. They're like, oh, I'll kill those 14-year-olds. Mm-hmm. Well, number one, that's not true. 14-year-olds make some of the best soldiers out there because they don't care about dying. But I mean, child soldiers historically. But in 4 years, they're going to be 18, folks, the best age for soldiers. The issue is it's this cop-out, that goes on.
No, I'm with you. These are just different videos from media and parts we approved. And I think the big thing is we're launching a search engine that we think is going to be a place for liberty. And if you want to call it an info war, yeah, because there's a war on for access to these files. There are people that simply, and it's legal right now to have these, but there are people that won't supply them to you because they feel pressure from investors or society, the government, something. And we think there at least need to be open software that allows you to access these things. And buddy, if you can watch that video later, I want you to. That one right there, I want you to see that.
Defcad.com.
Yeah, I want you to see that video.
All right. Now, in the time we've got left in this segment, getting back into political models, I think it's so important that, yeah, I support more things that are supposedly on the right wing because they claim they support private property, Second Amendment, things like that. But still, it's mainly window dressing or talking points for them. And conservatives and constitutionalists are figuring that out. But the statists are really demonizing them right now. So I see it awakening the libertarians and constitutionalists like never before to the fact that there really is no option in the political system and that we have to create a new political system, you know, to restore the republic. But when you talk about the so-called left, again, I think that's pure camouflage. And that's why I'm trying to get people outside of those labels.
I'm with you. Left and right is no longer meaningful after the French Revolution. They've just become excuses for one way or another of justifying monopoly capitalism. So I'm with you. Let's talk about freedom and liberty versus totalitarianism. All
right. Well, this interview is going to have to end in about 5 minutes because you've got to go, and so do I. We're into overdrive right now. Other points you're going to wish, Cody R. Wilson, that you would have covered after you've left?
Oh, man, we got Bitcoin. We got defcad.com. I want your listeners to please check out defcad. We've got a new project there starting. It's going to have its own organizational structure. And I want people to download these files and pay attention. In about a month, I think we're going to have a printable gun.
And what do you expect to happen then? Because the ATF is going to try to claim that, well, you've got to have a, I mean, I guess you have the firearms distributor license. You know they're going to try some type of bureaucratic garbage on you. But then the question is it illegal to simply have designs that are on a computer?
I don't think so. I think there's a large body of First Amendment jurisprudence that will make that a very difficult argument. But you're right. The battle will move on to that direction. I'm interested in seeing what will happen just like anyone else. Let's find out.
Yeah, there's a headline right there from the Daily Mail. U.S. grants first license to sell 3D printed guns, and you can already download the blueprints for free online and make your own. How many visitors you get into the site now a month?
Oh, a ton. We've done 500,000 downloads, 3.5 terabytes of traffic. Just everyone from all over the world downloads our files, and they're not even important. But this Daily Mail piece was a misrepresentation. The license wasn't to sell. The license was to manufacture a broad range of weapons. You can sell as well. But the point is,
they probably didn't understand that.
They don't understand our gun laws at all. They call everything an automatic weapon. They're scared of their own shadows. You know, if it goes bang, it's something terrifying. And
unless it's in the hands of troops in black uniforms with giant armored vehicles.
Right. And then it's,
that's what you should be afraid of.
Exactly.
But they're like, oh, I love that.
What could ever go wrong in a democratically elected government? You know? I'm with you.
Yeah, what about all the tyranny where they want to make kids take deadly anthrax shots now? And like we talked about at the start of the interview, where they're just saying, oh, we're going to take money out of your bank account now. It's a new tax.
It's amazing to me. Of course, these are the logical ends of institutional socialism. And yet, everyone says, well, you know, it's patriotism. Like that Obama could get on the last State of the Union and say, well, it's time for a new economic patriotism. Well, what's more economically patriotic than giving 10% of your deposits up to Uncle Sam so he can, you know, make the budget work? I mean, this is where this logic leads.
And it's not even make the budget work. They're destroying $85 billion a month, putting it into derivatives that they've already written off to hurt us.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they admit it's to hurt us.
Of course. I'm giving the propaganda, which is like, well, we got to take this so, you know, your grandma can get her cash her check, you know, her welfare check.
And really, they've worked it where we could feed the whole world 30 years ago. Now we can't even feed ourselves.
Precisely.
Because when they make scarcity and they're in control of the only conduits of energy and things, then they are all powerful.
These bankers have gambling addictions, you know. They should be in treatment. I mean, they're maniacs and paying bonuses, right? And yet we know this thing's totally insolvent. This is the brokest nation in history. I mean, this is the glittering collapse of some empire from years past, and we're watching it happen in slow motion. Get into Bitcoin, people. Your bank account is no longer safe. Your retirement account is no longer safe. Embrace something like printable guns. It doesn't mean...
Well, I'll say this. Bitcoin is growing rapidly. That makes me a little paranoid, but I have... Well, yeah. I mean, I have talked about it, but just getting diversified into it and other things will grow the revolution of ideas that will lead to even better things.
It's at least, right, a lesson in practical anarchy, which is, you know what, I don't need this institution, and I can handle these things myself, and we can do things peer-to-peer. We don't need a...
The more we work outside the system, the more we build new systems.
Yes, yes. importantly. And I think that's one of the primary lessons of this. What, you can make something yourself, which is already a revolutionary.
Yeah, but I mean, in this star-starved culture, you didn't do this to be a celebrity. You did this to have true revolution of human, potential. And now, Cody, you and your cohorts are like really well-known and on the map and getting invited to speak to some of the coolest people in the world. Congratulations. I mean, you are another model for other people to trailblaze. There are still many things to trailblaze more than ever. The revolution of the mind is happening now. The globalists want to think, want to make you think they're invincible and all-powerful. They're not. They're a joke. If we all just simply start doing independent things, it's over. And we're going to have pure discovery on that road.
I think that's a lesson. In fact, here's the part about us that's so unexpected, right? I think we're naive optimists about the future of the world. We're not here to ruin your party. We're here to actually portray a vision of liberty.
You're creating the future. God bless you. Retransmission starts now. With over 100,000. Over 100,000 at any one time. It's about 50,000. Al-Qaeda, Taliban, some even out of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and they are blowing up churches and synagogues. They are chopping Christians' heads off on TV. When we posted it on our YouTube channel, they banned the video. And then we had to file all sorts of stuff to even keep our websites up, our video sites up for the public. Chopping Christian heads off, blowing up churches, and they've got about half of Syria under their control. They've got about half of Syria under their control. And again, people go, well, Assad's a bad guy. Really, his dad did some butchering, did some massacres compared to Al-Qaeda. He was an angel as well. I certainly don't want to live there. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not an Alawite. I'm an American. But I support the Bill of Rights Constitution. And I do not support preemptive, fraudulent, evil attacks, very evil, to inject Al-Qaeda into Libya and Syria, to overtake them, and then to wreck the infrastructure, to screw the countries up, and then now they're announcing they're getting ready to bomb Al-Qaeda in Syria, and I guarantee you when they do this, they're actually going to bomb Syrian forces. Because the public doesn't know the difference between Syria and the Syrian army and Assad and Al-Qaeda, and the news is actually going along with this. And so Israel said that they were attacking chemical weapons and stuff. Turned out they were killing Iranian generals that are there advising with Hezbollah. It doesn't matter. Just lie to the public. And again, I'm not a fan of the mullahs and what Iran's doing either, but they're not attacking us. And the globalists are trying to start a fight with them, too, because during that war, they can take our liberties at home. You see, it's the New World Order that is here taking control of my life and your life. It's the New World Order devaluing the dollar. It's the New World Order engaged in economic shutdowns of our economy. And so now, to go over the headlines here, you notice the red line. They said if any chemical weapons get used, and before this happened, we told you, they're shipping chemical weapons in. Wayne Madsen, Webster Tarpley, reporters that have been there, gone to Syria, we've had on. And we've had Syrians on via Skype, and they said the word is they're bringing chemicals in to use them and blame us. And of course, Syria would never do that because it gives a pretext for an invasion. And it's not even a very good weapon against guerrilla forces you can't find. It's a weapon of terror. So it'll turn the population against them. They would never use it. So now Syrian rebels regime blame each other for first alleged chemical weapon attack. At least 25 dead. This is all going on today. And just yesterday, Obama and Netanyahu and the rest were saying, we've got to go attack or invade because of chemical weapons. And if Al-Qaeda uses them, we'll go in too. So you put Al-Qaeda in to overthrow a sovereign nation, and then you use Al-Qaeda, and then when they use chemical weapons, you invade and overthrow the government you're attacking. Incredible. Jones here, back live. We're going to get into a bunch of other geopolitical news and economic news. And is Obama... Ladies and gentlemen, huge geopolitical movements on this Tuesday, the 19th day of March 2013. The Syrian government is saying that chemical weapons have been launched by Al-Qaeda forces against them. People are suffocating in the streets. The air smells strongly of chlorine. That shows some type of chemical gas. And, of course, the White House and Benjamin Netanyahu have said that that would be a red line. if that happened. And the public, as I've been saying last year, we need to get Syrian Girl back on, as they hype the fact that Assad would use chemical weapons, they've segued into any use of chemical weapons as a reason to invade. And we just saw Israel and the United States in the press yesterday and the day before that, on Sunday, calling for strikes in Syria on al-Qaeda before they use chemical weapons against Assad, and then implying it's Assad's fault. Assad is the one being attacked. The Syrians are the ones being invaded out of Turkey, out of other NATO-backed areas like Jordan. And it's all on record, but they know the general public can't even find Syria on a map, much less even understand the different parties. And so the news this morning is calling for basically the bombardment or invasion of Syria because the West put al-Qaeda and other jihadis in there. They're now basically calling for some type of invasion to keep everyone safe from the chemical weapons that al-Qaeda has that clearly the West has given them. And, of course, there's Russians inside the country guarding the legally owned chemical weapons, because a lot of people think if you have chemical weapons, that's a reason to be invaded. Well, then every Western country in the world would have to be invaded. Most nations have chemical and biological weapons. And my issue is Syria's never invaded anybody. Syria's not attacking anybody. I don't particularly want to live under a, Alawite minority rule. They claim they have a mid-level elections there, but it is a dictatorship for all intents and purposes. But they're not attacking anybody, and we don't have a right to go attack them, much less use al-Qaeda. Much less use al-Qaeda to overtake the country, to then put in something 10 times worse than Assad conservatively. So just unprecedented, bizarro, absurdist land now, where we've got a Peace Prize winning president launching attacks in 10 different African countries, engaged in all sorts of mass murder, injecting jihadis in to engage in ethnic cleansing in Libya and other areas, while being praised as a wonderful peacenik. And now the London Telegraph, CBS News, they're all reporting it looks very credible that some type of chemical weapon has been used, and because people are sick of all the destructive negativity, all the anti-family, anti-God garbage. But, of course, it was pointed out as a meme online that even before Glenn Beck did it, I saw it last week. In fact, weeks ago, people were saying this guy looks like Obama, the guy that plays the devil. So I have a point I'm going to make later in the hour about that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Obama is the Antichrist. Obama is the Antichrist. But as the Bible says, there are many antichrists. So I'm going to go over those quotes and give you my perspective. Not the Antichrist, a Antichrist. Of course, the television is the one-eyed eye of Sauron, or the Antichrist being pumped full of venom towards you and your family. And I guess the devil is the prince of the power of the air. So that is coming up today as well. We're also going to get into more on the global economy, not just what's happening in the euro. Also, the feds are now moving to make children take anthrax shots. They've tried 3 times to give the U.S. military anthrax shots, and it killed so many people and doesn't even protect you that they suspended it. And now they're going to try to tell people it's the law to give their children that. Right now they're trying to approve it for newborn babies. I mean, you might as well just shoot them in the head right there on the spot. So that is coming up as well today. Now, let me first get into the top story, obviously. And we saw this coming last week. We saw it this week. You noticed last week, and we can punch up my computer screen. I can show TV viewers this. There is March 15th, Los Angeles Times. That was over the weekend, or Friday or Saturday. What day was the 15th? I guess Friday. And it says right there, CIA begins sizing up Islamic extremists in Syria for drone strikes. Isn't that funny? And then on Sunday, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, calls for Obama to have strikes inside calls for strikes inside Syria to, quote, go after the chemical weapons. And they just leave it out there as a nebulous report. And that was in Israeli Channel 2 News carrying his press conference. Kurt Nimmo wrote about it yesterday. Obama and Netanyahu to discuss attacks inside Syria and a buffer zone to now take more of Syria and make it part of Israel, and then later take more of Syria and make it part of Israel, and then later take more until there is no Syria basically even left. And that's what's going on. And they're playing on the abject, total, and complete ignorance of the general public about geopolitical issues, about the factions in the region, about any of it. And I told you 2.5, 3 years ago, at least 25 people are dead right now. That number probably will unfortunately rise. Now, when our troops got hit by chemical weapons from Saddam's chemical bases being blown up, and thousands of chemical detectors went off, including chemical tape that just picks it up. You don't really get false positives with that. They told them, never mind, you didn't really get hit by nerve gas. And then, of course, hundreds of thousands had neurological disorders. Tens of thousands have died. And so you just pretend it isn't happening. And so you'll probably see that as well. Here's the article from yesterday. I actually had it here in my stack. Will you guys print me, just so I have it when we come back from break? Israel calls for strikes inside of Syria. And U.S. calls for strikes against al-Qaeda in Syria. So, I mean, everybody knows that was on the news the last 2 days, but I want to have that. Syrian rebels regime blame each other for first alleged chemical weapons attack. So now it's going to be, Assad probably did it. I mean, this is just too amazing. That is all coming up and a lot more. Stay with us. All right, it is Tuesday, the 19th day of March, 2013. I am your host, Alex Jones. Coming up, Congressman asked Big Sis to explain huge ammo purchases. This is on YouTube and C-SPAN, but has not been picked up anywhere by the press until now. By Paul Joseph Watson, it is up at Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. Continuing, we have a bunch of developments on the robbery going on where they've declared a bank holiday until at least Thursday, halted trading in the stock market in Cyprus as the Cyprian population panics. And we've got the former ex-Chequer chancellor, the former finance minister, the former secretary of the Treasury, basically, in England, warning of bank runs across Europe, saying this is total theft that is going on and will destroy confidence. Well, that's what it's designed to do. Bloomberg, of all people, his Bloomberg editorial board, not Bloomberg himself, has come out saying that the Cyprus bailout is the worst thing Europe has done in the entire crisis. Yeah, no kidding. It's a trial balloon. And so we're going to be breaking down also what the head of PIMCO has come out and said about this, saying it could lead to civil unrest and is robbery. So all of that is coming up today. Also, I haven't talked about this since it broke the last few days, but I did a little bit of research into it. And so I'll give you my take on the Bible show that's such a huge hit that we don't watch a lot of TV, and my children watch it. We allow them to watch it. Just to give you an example, it has about 5 times the ratings of other top shows on cable. And the establishment's pulling their hair out. When they started the Libya liberation, the bombing campaign, and the lining up the black Libyans and shooting them, and the al-Qaeda forces being brought into Benghazi by NATO, I said that they'll later have drone strikes on the al-Qaeda forces and say they've got to keep U.S. troops in Africa and use Libya as a base to project al-Qaeda all over Libya to then invade other countries. That's now all happened. That's all come out. They've had African leaders come out and say there are blonde-haired, blue-eyed men leading al-Qaeda. They work for NATO and AFRICON as a pretext to take our country over. And the West will invade and take over the oil fields of countries and diamond fields. They've done this all over, or they'll use the UN and the French, as they did a few months ago in one African country. And they'll actually say, we're here to protect you from al-Qaeda. They're not even saying the governments are bad. They'll say, we're taking over to protect you from al-Qaeda. And the presidents and prime ministers will go, you are al-Qaeda. You did this. You blew up the chemical plant. You attacked the oil refineries. And they're like, doesn't matter. We're now controlling it. And so they'll put NATO and AFRICOM troops just in the oil fields, sitting there on the natural resources. And then it's in the back of the paper. Oh, America's fighting al-Qaeda. And it's Anglos, British Special Forces, U.S. Special Forces. There's reports, photos, black U.S. citizen Special Forces. Black guys, white guys, but the white guys really stand out in Africa. And it's just back of the paper. Just back of the paper that somebody just put this in really boiled down terms. Our government 2.5 years ago starts attacking Libya, almost 3 years ago. While they're rocket attacking, even had tanks and aircraft, they were calling them peaceful protesters being killed by Gaddafi. Gaddafi was raping women with brigades of troops fueled by Viagra. Wasn't true. But see, that's why the White House is so scared of this Obama is the devil, Obama is Satan meme. Just like Obama deception has now become the major meme through my film. It's been seen over 40 million times, free online, the Obama deception. Because they know the public's dumbed down to just Obama devil, Obama bad man. They know, of course, in his case, that's actually true. But with Gaddafi, it's Gaddafi is raping women, CNN's reporting, fueled by Viagra. Turned out it was all made up, all fake. Libya, you get put in prison for that. But there's real raping going on by the jihadis they put in charge of areas of Syria they've taken, and now areas that they've taken control of since they kicked Mubarak out and put al-Qaeda light in control of Egypt. So it's very simple. The globalists are putting al-Qaeda and jihadis and Saudi Arabian and Qatari and all these other special forces in, advised by Mossad, by Shin Bet, by MI6, by MI5, by CIA, by German special forces, French special forces, that I mentioned British, NATO, and they just publicly operate. And they've invaded now in the last 22 months.